At a party, a rumor shook the entire aristocratic circle. Oh my, I heard Lady Julia Primrose has returned, the young ladies whispered amongst themselves. They say her business has become incredibly successful. Is there anyone in high society who hasn't heard of it by now? At that moment, Julia, dressed in an extremely elegant outfit, gracefully entered, drawing all eyes to her. The men also began to murmur. One curiously asked, "A young lady abandon her family and build a career on her own?" Another cautiously replied, "She's among the top 10 economic leaders who have changed the empire. More than that, I hear she's even ranked first." Gazing at Julia's sparkling dress, a lady couldn't help but exclaim, "Goodness, how rich must she be to wear a dress adorned with such large gems?" The lady beside her put on a knowing air, folding her arms and remarking, "How naive. There's no way those gems are real." Julia frankly stated, "Actually they are." She gave a beautiful smile and said, "Everything I'm wearing is made of real gems." The two ladies who had been gossiping about her dress became flustered. "Oh, Lady Primrose." Julia formally introduced herself. "My company, Unit, doesn't just sell cosmetics. We've officially partnered with the Royal Merchant Guild and have begun dealing in jewelry as well." Having said that, her gaze turned to the lady in the blue dress. Her voice softened with concern. "By the way, miss, your skin looks a little dry. If you come to Unit, I'll recommend a skincare product suited to your skin. It was created using my own talents, so I can guarantee its effectiveness." Surprise mixed with apprehension appeared on the face of the lady in the blue dress. She stammered, "Oh, really? Thank you, Lady Primrose. Please forgive what I said earlier. I just misspoke. I thought a lady like you wouldn't know anything about business." Julia became extremely serious. "I've been interested in this field since I was very young. It's not surprising that you didn't know. It's just that you never paid any attention to me. To all of you, I was always just Lyrica's foolish older sister, wasn't I? And you all pretended to understand me so well, gossiping about me beforehand." With those words, Julia coldly turned and walked away, leaving the lady in the blue dress feeling incredibly guilty. She urgently called out, "No, no, Lady Primrose, you misunderstand. Please give me a chance to explain." Julia no longer paid attention to the woman. She thought to herself, "If I had spoken so sharply in the past, it would have caused a huge argument. But even the great nobles are no exception to the power of wealth. I was born the eldest daughter of the esteemed Duke Primrose. Above me was my brother, Zikazin, and below me was my half-sister, Lyrica. They were once a part of my life. Lyrica joined the Duke's household despite being an illegitimate child, but her naturally sociable personality quickly won everyone over. Before long, I was overshadowed by her. With our contrasting personalities, I was constantly compared to her. The lovable, illegitimate child and the aloof daughter of the legal wife. That was the story everyone loved, and so our roles were set. But at least I still had hope and blessings. The power of a blessing could revive even dead grass and out-of-season flowers, a power truly capable of nurturing everything. Around that time, a pressing social issue arose, as key ingredients in cosmetics were taking the lives of many noble ladies. Using my ability, I created a line of all-natural cosmetics. And the existence of those products created a huge wave of public opinion, not only among the nobility, but throughout the empire. Just like that, I, the ugly duckling of the Duke's family, applied my ability to business, and returned as the richest person in the empire. Suddenly, a call from behind made Julia turn around in annoyance. Sister Lyrica, her face filled with worry, ran up and asked, "How could you not contact me even once? Do you know how worried I've been? Even if you left home, you should at least keep in touch." Julia replied coldly, "It's been a while, Lyrica." Lyrica's eyes suddenly fell on the jewels adorning Julia's dress. She hesitantly wondered, "But, sister, do you like jewels? You sold the necklace father gave you, so I thought you weren't interested in such things." Faced with Lyrica's thinly veiled reproach disguised as concern, Julia no longer had the energy to react. She simply replied calmly, "Actually, I just didn't want to wear anything given to me by Duke Primrose." Suddenly, Lyrica became distraught that, "Oh my sister, did you just say Duke Primrose? How could you call father that? Even if he scolded you, isn't this too much?" Thanks to her slightly raised voice, Lyrica successfully attracted the attention of everyone in the banquet hall. Next, Lyrica's eyes welled up with tears. She spoke as if blaming herself. "Ha, you're still so cold to our family. I was such a fool, hoping you would change." Julia looked at her weak appearance and couldn't help but feel disgusted. She scoffed inwardly. "You're the one who hasn't changed, Lyrica. The weak, obedient, illegitimate daughter. And me, the legitimate daughter, the one who treats her harshly. That's the picture she painted behind my back." Duke Primrose suddenly spoke, interrupting Julia's thoughts. "Lyrica is right. How can you call your father Duke and treat me like a stranger?" Lyrica, seeing him come to her defense, said in a pitiful voice, "Father." Duke Primrose continued, "I know you don't like me, but family ties aren't something you can sever just because you don't feel like it. Now, give me your hand. I'll escort you. Why can't anyone ever subvert my expectations?" A voice suddenly rang out, "Julia." It was her brother, Zikizan. He suggested, "Isn't it best to have the first dance with your brother?" She frowned in annoyance. "Is that really necessary?" He also put on an annoyed expression. "I gave you a chance to reconcile." And yet, suddenly, someone ran up from afar and called out, "Lady Julia Primrose. Please don't do this. Instead, why not dance with me? We haven't established a close relationship yet." Before he could finish a sentence, Duke Primrose and his son loudly interrupted. "No close relationship? What do you mean by that? After proposing to Lyrica in front of Julia, what right do you have to be here? That's right, Vieira, the likes of you don't belong. This place." Julia looked at the situation and sighed. It was so chaotic. Did they not even consider how they treated her before her success? Having an affair with her sister. Nothing more. Always defending Lyrica while only scolding her. And in the end, he even poisoned his own daughter. After all of that, did they really think they had the right to reach out to her? Wasn't that just too shameless? Thinking of this, she spoke up. "I apologize, but I already have a companion." Zikizan was surprised. "What? Julia?" While the three of them were talking, someone approached and called out, "Julia, I'm sorry I'm a little late." She replied, "It's all right. You were late because of the work I asked you to do." Seeing the person before him, Duke Primrose was startled. "No, that person is... This is my companion. So, can everyone leave now? My transformation from an ugly duckling, always mocked by everyone, into a swan has only just begun." Julia began to talk about herself, that I clearly remember my death. At that time, I was struggling to support my weak body. Facing the cold expression of Duke Primrose and her brother Zikizan, her voice was hoarse as she pleaded, "Ha, ha, father, father, brother. Please save me, ha ha." The cold air and the cold floor without a trace of warmth, and my father's voice was even colder. "This is the last bit of tolerance for you. I don't want to draw my sword. You know what to choose." And then, a glass of poisoned wine was placed before her. She thought in agony, giving poison to your own daughter, and calling it tolerance. Right, rather than living like this, it's better to go meet Mother in heaven. Thinking so, she didn't hesitate any longer and brought the wine straight to her lips and drank. Very quickly, the poison began to take effect in an instant. Her body was in excruciating pain. Her throat coughed continuously, coughing up blood, ugh, ugh. Zikizan disagreed somewhat with his father's way of handling this. "Father, you were too lenient to let her die so easily. Thinking about the things she's done." Duke Primrose sternly reminded, "Watch your words, Zikizan. After all, she's still your sister." Zikizan coldly denied this before Julia's dying body. "No, ever since Lyrica came here, I've only had one sister, and that's her." Duke Primrose said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, There will be no more incidents that can tarnish the reputation of the Duke's family. Julia continued to think sadly. My family tried to erase my entire existence while I was coughing up blood and dying right in front of them. In the last moment of her life, she sneered and rewound the film of her own memories. Why did my life turn out like this? The look of contempt was worse than looking at garbage on the side of the road. A miserable life, killed by my own family and betrayed by the person I loved. It's meaningless. The thing that brought me here, even though I ran away from the beginning, was... The moment she was running away, it was Vieira who chased after her, shouting, "Stop right there, villainous!" He quickly grabbed her wrist, trying to stop her. Julia was confused. "Vieira, how could you?" Then, she thought, because that's the person I wholeheartedly pursued, my fiancé. At that moment, I realized the truth was that no one in this world loved me. No, there was still one person. But my mother passed away not long ago, and the affection she had for me was genuine. When I was young, I could be happy and carefree in my mother's arms, forgetting everything. I never thought I would die like this. She raised a hand to catch the blood spilling from her mouth. S.O. This is the end. As my vision blurred and my consciousness faded, a forgotten memory surfaced. A friend once asked her, "Have you read this novel?" She rested her chin on her hand, curious that what's it about. Her friend excitedly told her, "It's that really popular parenting genre. It's called Cherished, the Abandoned Princess." The main character is a girl named Lyrica. Lyrica's dazzling life, who suddenly became the Duke's daughter from a commoner. At first, she was looked down upon as an illegitimate child, but with her friendly and sociable personality, she won the affection of her father and brother. It's a story about the fight with her half-blooded sister, the typical villain. It's a cliché but touching story. Yuria Primrose, the typical background character who tormented the female lead out of jealousy. It was only now that Yuria truly questioned herself. Why am I only thinking about it now? That I've been Yuria all along. This place, it's inside the novel I read in my past life. I should have realized it sooner, from the moment Lyrica joined the family. Duke Primrose's words, once scornful towards her. Worse than even your sister, she monopolized the love of your father and brother. And then they slowly resented me. Quickly, Lyrica even turned all social connections towards herself. The more she was loved, the more I was hated. And even my fiancé had an affair with her and proposed to break off our engagement. Although her vision had become blurry, the hateful gazes of the two men in front of her were like daggers piercing her heart. She thought, now I understand why I hated it so much. Yuria wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, cursing inwardly, that damn novel. But meeting Mother was the only fortunate thing, right? Thinking of her mother, she smiled faintly. Mother, I'll follow you. Goodbye, troublesome Duke's family. In my miserable life, I died so painfully. Suddenly, a melodious voice called her name. Yuria? Whose voice is that? Yuria wondered. Lycidon exclaimed worriedly, Oh my, Yuria! She couldn't believe her eyes. Mother, Lycidon said softly, have you finally regained consciousness? Hearing that, tears unconsciously streamed down her cheeks. Is this a dream? She thought emotionally. Lycidon gently touched her forehead. Let's see. How is your fever now? She removed her mother's hand, her face streaked with tears and flushed with fever, and asked, Mother, where is this? Lycidon asked gently, Oh dear, are you still in a lot of pain? Did you have a nightmare or something? The doctor said you'll be fine when the fever goes down. She suddenly thought, a nightmare? Was all of that just a nightmare? She pressed her lips together, assessing the it seems like. Everything felt so vivid. After a moment of thought, she hesitantly asked, Mother, am I not dead? Could this be heaven? Lycidon was taken aback by the question. Oh dear, you must have been in so much pain. How could you be dead when you're only 19? Yuria's eyes became hazy. She seemed to disbelieve the reality, quickly asking, What? Only 19. Suddenly, a loud voice called from outside her bedroom. Mother, we're here. Lycidon cheerfully sat up. Oh good, come in. The door quickly opened. Yuria's face froze at Lyrica's bright voice. Ah, sister, you're awake. That's wonderful. Yuria, he thought, in confusion. Lyrica and Jakizan. Lyrica exclaimed joyfully, Sister, you're awake. Thank goodness. After waking up, Yuria wondered in astonishment. Was it all a long dream? Or could it be, I've returned to the right time? A moment later, Lycidon returned and said happily, just in time, I'll find a doctor. Can you two look after Yuria? Lyrica cheerfully replied, Yes, mother, don't worry and just go. Lycidon softly said, Thank you. With that, she left. Then Jakizan spoke, You said you were sick, and now you look perfectly fine. Are you still pretending to be sick at this age? Yuria was startled by his words. She thought to herself, I've heard that before too. When I recovered from a serious illness, my brother said the same thing to me. If this is all an illusion, the pain from the poisoned drink father gave me couldn't have been so real. I died in the winter at 19, and mother said I just turned 19. If this isn't a dream, then have I returned to a year ago? After a while, without a response from Yuria, Jakizan asked impatiently, Hey, are you really sick? You're not going to lie about it to ruin Lyrica's birthday, are you? Lyrica interrupted him, Brother, what are you saying? Yuria remembered Jakizan reporting to their father, Father, it's too merciful to let her die so easily, considering what she's done until now. Ever since Lyrica came to live with us, the only sister I have is her. She seethed inwardly. That disgusting voice still lingers in my head. Even after returning to the past, people's personalities haven't changed, have they? Brother, that's rude. Back in the present, Lyrica turned to comfort her. Sister, don't mind what he says. I'm relieved you're awake and safe. Relieved? She let out a helpless chuckle, then pondered aha behind that angelic smile. Looking at Lyrica's smiling face, Yuria thought, behind that angelic smile hides endless malice. Memories flashed again, and she stammered, Lyrica, this is just a misunderstanding. Lyrica sighed indifferently. Are you still pretending not to know? Or do you really not know? Surprised by her sister's attitude, she asked, What are you talking about? Lyrica calmly replied, Of course, I know it's just a misunderstanding, because I'm the one who started it. Yuria tormented herself. She's always been the devil dragging me into the abyss. Until then, we were just distant acquaintances, but Lyrica has truly revealed her true nature. Yuria remembered a time when she was embroidering a handkerchief. Lyrica approached and praised her, Sister, you're so skillful. Yuria looked up at her. Lyrica, with an innocent expression, said, If you don't mind, could you help me with something? There's something I need to finish, but I don't think I can do it alone. Yuria regretted her past actions. If only I had realized then that those were the whispers of the devil. A few hours later, the handkerchief was torn to shreds. Duke Primrose angrily shouted at her, Yuria, how dare you do such a thing? Tearing apart the only memento Lyrica's mother left behind. We've overlooked your constant mistreatment of Lyrica, but this... Yuria, unjustly slapped, pathetically retorted to defend herself. No, father, I've never mistreated Lyrica, nor did I tear her handkerchief. He couldn't control his temper and yelled, So you're saying Lyrica tore her own mother's handkerchief? And a servant saw you holding it. Yuria fearfully stammered, I was only going to embroider it because she asked me to. There must be some misunderstanding. Lyrica, tell them, why did you lie? Lyrica calmly replied, Yes, I asked her to embroider it, but I didn't expect her to tear it. Faced with Lyrica's masterful performance, Yuria could only utter two words, Liar. The servants in the house were all suspicious. Miss Lyrica, really? Even if you hate her, tearing up your deceased mother's memento. Yuria looked around blankly and wondered, but why? Why is everyone siding with Lyrica? From that day on, Lyrica became increasingly cunning, setting traps for me. She stole everything I had and orchestrated my downfall, making me into a villain so that all the animosity was directed at me. Suddenly, Lyrica's voice brought her back to reality. Sister, you're unusually quiet today. Could it be that you haven't recovered from your fever yet? Jakizan said in a bored tone. See? I told you. Yuria is just pretending. She just wants to ruin the mood by ignoring your birthday. Lyrica pretended to be cheerful and spoke up for her. Oh, brother, that's not it. She'll come and even make the party more special. At this moment, Yuria interrupted her, of course. How could I miss Lyrica's birthday when I'm looking forward to it so much? It's too harsh to treat me like a party pooper. Happy birthday, dear sister. I'm sure it will be a very memorable day. She thought to herself, Lyrica's birthday was certainly memorable for me before I was reborn too. Yuria glanced at her outfit. Then she thought helplessly, because Lyrica sent me the wrong dress color, I was humiliated and insulted for wearing that dress. I won't let Lyrica get the better of me again, and I will take revenge on all those who ruined my life. Starting with Lyrica, my father, and my brother who gave me the poison drink. Yuria remembered when she cheerfully flirted with her man. Marcel, I brought you flowers. She glared at the man she had once madly chased after, only for him to betray her with Lyrica and even contribute to her death. Marcel Vieira, the young nobleman. This time, I will escape from them, save my mother, and live happily ever after. If this is the second chance I've been given, I will throw away that worthless trash I shouldn't have relied on, and live the life I desire. And the first step had to be the name of the man who abandoned her in her misery. Julia silently resolved, because I've been given a second chance, I will never repeat the foolish mistakes of my past life. The first thing that started my tragedy was outside the palace hallway. Julia, inside the room, called out, "Come in, Vieira." Marcel didn't hesitate any longer. He immediately entered. Meanwhile, Julia thought, meeting my fiancé after his affair with my sister, the one who pushed me into the abyss. He came in and exclaimed, "Julia, I heard you were ill. Are you feeling better now?" Julia turned to look at him and said to herself, although he's being polite in his tone and expression, I don't see any genuine concern at all. If it were the old me, I would think, although blunt, his character is good because he came to visit me out of concern. He just wants to see Lyrica more, regardless of the reason. Actually, I vaguely sensed it, but I deliberately pretended not to know anything. In my past life, that handkerchief was embroidered with the emblem of the Duke Primrose's house, not the Count Vieira's. Exchanging handkerchiefs is usually an act of lovers, but it wasn't something I gave him, he said. Julia recalled the time she sincerely bowed her head and offered him a handkerchief. Marcel, this is the handkerchief I embroidered myself. I wanted to give it to you as an engagement gift. He had hesitantly uttered, I appreciate your feelings, but we're not married yet, so this is a bit much for me. Julia froze in embarrassment. Oh, I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable. She always dwelled on that. He had bluntly rejected her handkerchief. Marcel, seeing her silence, spoke irritably. You must have been in a lot of pain. You're a bit quiet today. She politely replied, Yes, I'm fine now. Julia told herself, right, the current me definitely looks awkward. The version of me who used to smile foolishly and not know what to do is gone now. Then she decided to start a conversation with him. Marcel, actually, I know you love Lyrica. He flinched and stammered. What? What do you mean? I think there's a misunderstanding here. Marcel thought to himself, right, I think I should apologize first. I can't hide it perfectly anyway. She saw his expression and understood what he was thinking. Julia then said, No need to apologize. Even so, I'm not that stupid. Marcel angrily clenched his hand into a fist. Julia, if you're going to be angry, just take it out on me directly. If you touch Lyrica, Julia turned away in disgust, thinking, such a century-long love, truly. No matter how angry you get, I'm not afraid anymore. I've experienced death, so are threats like this. After a moment, Julia controlled her emotions, turned back, and smiled at him. Don't misunderstand. I just want to say that I support your love. For her, Marcel asked fearfully, What are you planning this time? Julia turned towards the window and calmly said, Actually, I've been bedridden with illness for a long time this time. He raised a hand to his chin and agreed. Right, I've heard about that. My visit was postponed because I was a little busy, she added. So, after struggling between life and death, I started to think, have I been living too much for myself all this time? Marcel awkwardly exclaimed, Julia. She cut him off before he could finish. Thank you for putting up with my childish behavior all this time. Changing marriage partners is a normal thing. But the problem is, my father probably won't accept it. I have a way. Would you like to hear it? Julia thought triumphantly. Just you wait. I'll throw your life into the abyss. Night had already fallen. Cars lined up, carrying people to the party. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Primrose family's young lady, Julia Primrose, is entering. Lyrica wore an elegant dress and expensive shoes, drawing the attention of the surrounding young ladies that, oh my, Lady Julia has returned. She's always late, as if she's the main character. Really, isn't she trying to ruin Lady Lyrica's birthday party? Suddenly, a voice called her name, Lyrica. She turned around happily and cried out joyfully, Ah, sister, you've come. Seeing Julia, she froze for a few seconds, taking in her evening gown. Julia walked forward elegantly and said softly, I'm sorry, am I late? She gloated inwardly. That's right. You must be very surprised. She had clearly told the servants that the dress code was red, and everyone would prepare extravagant outfits. Originally, only the main character of the party was supposed to wear pink, while the guests would wear blue. In the end, I've become the ugly older sister who deliberately wore a flashy outfit out of jealousy. But now, what should I do? The person who made her the object of ridicule. I wore blue. But, Lyrica, today's surprise isn't just this. I prepared a big birthday present for you. The people around couldn't help but gossip about Julia when they saw her arrived. Oh my, good heavens. Isn't that the young master of the Vieira family? That's right. He's Lady Julia's fiancé. But Lyrica witnessed one surprise after another. Marcel's appearance made everyone wonder, why is he wearing the same color outfit as Lady Lyrica? Marcel spoke with affectionate eyes. Lyrica. Lyrica was so surprised she couldn't speak. Why are you wearing pink? She stammered, young Master Vieira. Confused, she thought this outfit. I didn't tell anyone about the color of my dress. How did you? Two women behind them gossiped. Suddenly, Marcel seriously denied. It's not a misunderstanding, Lyrica. He contentedly took out the handkerchief and presented it to her. After seeing the feelings on the handkerchief you gave me, I couldn't bear to have others misunderstand that it was something Lady Julia gave me. She was speechless, stunned. Why would he say that here? He, however, continued his serious confession. It also took a great deal of courage for me to say this, but Lyrica, I can't hide my feelings any longer. So, he then knelt on one knee. Marcel solemnly extended a hand and proposed, Marry me. Julia smiled a strange, satisfied smile. In the past, the fiancé I chased so madly has become my perfect puppet in this life, and the results are quite spectacular. A loud roar erupted from within the mansion. That bastard, Duke Primrose, continued to rage. Even if he intends to ignore the primroses, there's a limit. That brazen bastard has made our family a laughingstock. A nouveau riche acting like this to climb the social ladder. Lycidon anxiously held Julia's shoulders. Daughter, are you all right? She quietly gave a satisfied smile. Things are a bit different from what I expected, but this is actually quite good, isn't it? Just like in her past life, Lyrica could only manage a few words. Asterisk back to the conversation with Marcel a day earlier. She had said asterisk. As you know, the Duke is very concerned about what others think of him. Right? Asterisk. So, if people start saying, yes, they look very good together, he'll find it hard to refuse an established relationship. This is your last chance to have Lyrica. Asterisk. Maxwell had immediately panicked. Asterisk. Last chance? Right. If I get married this time, I won't be able to see Lyrica again. How can this woman be more important than Lyrica? I'll try to become Lyrica's man, even just once. Asterisk. And so, at the party, he held out a handkerchief towards Lyrica and proposed, Please, marry me. She stammered in reply, Marry. Julia thought to herself, Lyrica told me that was the color dress she would wear, but I didn't expect him to cause such a commotion. And because of this, Lyrica became the subject of gossip. The crowd immediately began murmuring, "What's going on?" Of all places, this kind of thing happens at the Duke Primrose's residence. Julia continued to think, "I've finally tarnished the Primrose family's honor, making father furious." Thinking this, she put on a pitiful expression and replied softly, "I'm all right, father. Lyrica's love is what matters. I'll step aside." Inwardly, she thought, "Well, time for my performance." Duke Primrose slammed his hand on the armrest and roared, "Whose love matters is irrelevant. In my entire life, no one has ever humiliated." With tears welling in her eyes, Julia said resentfully, "I'm sorry, father. I brought shame to the family because of my shortcomings." Lycidon immediately panicked and tried to comfort her. "Oh dear, Julia, don't say that." She continued to speak sadly in the face of his anger. "I just hope Lyrica and Maxwell will both be happy." She choked back a sob, accepting the blame. "The reason his feelings changed is because I wasn't good enough," she sobbed. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Zikizin and Lyrica entered the room and spoke up. "Father, we're here." Duke Primrose roared angrily. "Why are you only appearing now after I summoned you? How long will this take?" Zikizin gravely explained, "It's true that the Duke's reputation has been tarnished. I apologize, father, but please listen." Lyrica is also very distraught about all of this. It's true she gave him the handkerchief, but she said there's nothing between them, so Julia's engagement should be maintained. Julia thoughtfully glanced at the two of them, calculating. Asterisk, this is so typical of Lyrica, always making others speak for her and do things she can't do herself. So from now on, asterisk. Her train of thought was abruptly cut short by Duke Primrose slapping his thigh. He roared angrily, "Zikizin, have you lost your mind?" Zikizin, bewildered, immediately asked, "What do you mean, father?" Duke Primrose stood up abruptly in exasperation. "After all this humiliation, you're saying you still want to maintain the engagement? It should be annulled immediately. Just a minor noble dares to say such an absurd thing." Zikizin hesitantly started to explain, "Father, what I meant was..." Lyrica burst into tears, sobbing. He turned sharply to question her. "First, Lyrica, why did you give your sister's fiancé a handkerchief and cause all this trouble?" He angrily pressed, "At least say something." Julia pondered thoughtfully. "Now, Lyrica, how are you going to handle this?" She hesitantly stepped forward. "Father..." Lyrica nervously wrung her hands as she tried to explain. "The reason is because my sister isn't good at embroidery, so he asked me to. I swear I didn't have any ulterior motives." She raised a hand to wipe away the tears falling down her face. "I don't know why young Master Vera misunderstood, but I'm truly sorry for causing this chaos." Julia, upon hearing this, thought in surprise, "Oh, so now you're making up that story?" Duke Primrose wearily rubbed his forehead, scolding, "Even if you were asked to do such a thing, how could someone as intelligent as you do something so foolish?" Lyrica quickly explained, "I'm truly sorry, father. After all, no matter how well I'm raised in the Duke's household, does it really make a difference compared to my origins?" Julia sighed in exasperation at this. There it is again, her trump card. Zikizin hastily reassured her, "You don't have to be like this. It's Vera's fault." Julia calculated inwardly. "Father, well then, I think it's time for my counterattack." Lycidon suddenly spoke up. "That's right, Lyrica. You don't have to say such things. You are already a member of the Primrose family, and your origins don't matter." Julia was startled to hear her mother speak. "Mother." Lyrica turned her head, filled with gratitude. "Thank you, mother," Lycidon continued. "But how did the two of you end up wearing dresses of the same color? That's what needs explaining." Julia was surprised. Asterisk, I was just about to point that out, too. Moreover, this is the first time I've seen Mother speak so decisively. Asterisk, Lyrica stammered immediately. "Yes, about that. I mean," she awkwardly explained, "I don't know. Maybe it was just a coincidence." Lycidon questioned her again, but all the guests were wearing blue. Only the two of you were wearing pale pink. It's hard to believe that was just a coincidence, isn't it? Julia's voice rang out, filled with feigned distress. Lyrica, like Mother said, you don't have to hide anything, and I understand everything. Inwardly, she smiled to herself. Lyrica, how does it feel to experience what you've always put others through? Lyrica frantically defended herself. Sister, I really don't know anything about this. Zikazin angrily clenched his fists. He roared, stop it. The one who's hurting the most right now is Lyrica. Maybe we don't understand everything yet, so please stop siding with Julia just because she's his biological daughter. Lycidon looked stunned. She stammered, What are you saying? How can you say such a thing? Julia, hearing this, thought with disdain, Asterisk, he can't say anything when father scolds Lyrica directly, but he mocks mother? Is this how he views the woman who raised Lyrica, the one father brought in from outside, as if there's no discrimination? Asterisk. She suddenly turned to Duke Primrose. Father, I think it's pointless if it's just us talking like this, so how about we call young Master Vera here? What do you think? Duke Primrose pondered silently for a moment, then spoke, surprising both Zikazin and Lyrica. D.O., as Julia says. Zikazin, looking displeased, said loudly, But father, Lyrica's current state. The Duke slammed his hand on the table and growled, Get a grip. This isn't something we can discuss while considering Lyrica's situation. How can the heir to the dukedom be so foolish? Lyrica, frightened, called out, brother. Duke Primrose held his head, his frustration evident, and more talk. I'll bring that man here and hold him accountable for this. A moment later, Maxwell was summoned. He bowed and said, I sincerely apologize for causing such a commotion. I know I'm only the son of an earl. I'm not worthy of your attention, but my feelings for Lady Lyrica are sincere. Please give us your blessing. Hearing him, Lyrica was taken aback, then thought worriedly, What the hell is this mad man saying now? She abruptly turned away. Father, this is just Lord Vera's one-sided claim. Maxwell called out to her awkwardly. Lyrica, still not looking at him, said, If I cause you any misunderstanding, I apologize. But I was only kind to Lord Vera because he's my sister's fiancé. She addressed the Duke. I truly don't have any feelings for Lord Vera. Her words struck Maxwell like a bolt of lightning, leaving him utterly bewildered. This is absurd. Julia carefully observed Lyrica and thought. Asterisk as expected, she quickly cut off the connection. This is the first time I've seen Lyrica so flustered. Humph. She only knows how to cause trouble for others, but she's never been in a position where she's the one trapped. Asterisk. Suddenly, Maxwell asked Lyrica, Then what about the handkerchief? You know very well what it meant. She replied with difficulty. That's because Lord Vera asked me to make 3 handkerchiefs, because he said my sister's embroidery skills weren't very good. He continued, but when you gave me the handkerchief, I clearly remember what you said to me. You said you loved me, but because of Julia, we couldn't be together. You looked so heartbroken, but you said you would always cherish your feelings for me. Maxwell shouted, You said that. Zikazin, hearing this, asked, What the hell? Lyrica, what does this mean? While she bowed her head, wondering, Asterisk, what should I do? What should I do? Asterisk. A few seconds. Lyrica started to speak sweetly to him, Why, Lord, he's just upset right now. So he made it up. It's all a lie. Father, I never said that. Please believe me. Julia observed the situation, thinking to herself, I've only just cast the bait, and it's already caused this much commotion. Marcel continued to press the issue. Lyrica, are you worried about Julia? Don't worry. Julia has already given us her blessing. He cupped his face in his hands. Hidden beneath, that was his own questioning of his words. Julia? Lord Vieira, what do you mean by mentioning Julia? Lycidon spoke sternly. Regardless of what happened between Lyrica and you, shouldn't you apologize to Julia first? Instead of apologizing, you're using Julia to deceive. How unconscionable. Marcel immediately defended himself. Duchess, this is just a misunderstanding. I'm not using Lady Julia. Before he could finish, Duke Primrose spoke. Enough. Dare to say another word. You not only slandered Lyrica with false accusations. But now you're lying about Juria too. Lyrica approached Marcel. Lord Vieira, this behavior is truly insulting to both my sister and me. He thought in a panic, this isn't right. Everyone has completely misunderstood. Lyrica clearly said she loved me. Yes, kind Lyrica wouldn't lie about this. So, Marcel then turned to Juria and asked, Juria Primrose, it's you, isn't it? He questioned, are you threatening Lyrica? She calmly replied, threatening her? Why would you say that? Inwardly, she thought, he's just digging himself a deeper grave. He grew more agitated, raising his voice, if not, then why did Lyrica reject me? You pretended to give us your blessing, but were you secretly plotting something behind the scenes? In his eyes, she was always a cold person. He shouted, you've always been a cruel woman. Juria thought, always been a cruel woman. Duke Primrose suddenly roared, I can't listen to any more of this. There's no way I'll let someone like you marry Juria, or Lyrica. Marcel listened in horror as the Duke declared, I will annul the engagement and formally protest to the Earl's house. Jakizan thought, what a pathetic fool. The Duke ordered, what are you still standing there for? Throw this bastard out of here immediately. In the bedroom, Lycidon spoke softly to Juria. I never thought Vieira was that kind of person, not only causing chaos, but insulting you like that as well. She wept softly and hugged her. I'm sorry for arranging your marriage with such a man, Juria. Juria gently reassured her. I didn't know he was like that either, but I'm all right. After all, I was the one who insisted on the engagement in the first place. Remembering her tragic and painful scene from her past life, she thought, right? I had no idea. He not only loved Lyrica, he was also so despicable and cruel, willing to drag me back to my father after I tried to run away. She smiled brightly, hugging Lycidon. Well, at least I've learned about people's hearts in this life. Lycidon comforted and reassured her, I'll handle the annulment procedures for you. I'll talk to your father to arrange it, but don't worry. Juria gently took her hand. Mother, I have something to tell you too. Juria thought to herself, Mother, soon, you'll pass away, but I can't bring myself to say it. Instead, I'll express my deepest affection. Mother, Juria said sadly, I'll take care of everything from now on. Please, just focus on yourself. You don't need to worry about the family matters anymore. Your health isn't good, and I'm worried that something bad will happen if you continue to stress over these things. Lycidon gently stroked Juria's face and said softly, I must have worried you a lot. The truth is, I was very worried today. She continued, I thought staying silent would help you, but I was wrong. For you, I will attend more social gatherings and strengthen your position. She caressed Juria's face and said, no one will be able to touch my daughter. Tears welled up in Juria's eyes as she cried out, Mother. Old memories began to surface. In her past life, her mother had passed away a few months before she turned 20. That day, Lycidon suddenly collapsed. The servants cried out in panic, Madam, someone call a doctor. Juria continued to think. She died of lead poisoning. Because this world is slow in technological development, lead is still used in cosmetics. Therefore, lead poisoning is quite common, becoming a cause of death for noble women. Her mother had a weak constitution and rarely went out, seldom wearing makeup, so she had a lower risk of lead poisoning than other noble women. Juria thought to herself, but my mother. Then she lowered her head, her face darkening, her expression becoming blank. A suspicion festered in her heart. She was the first among the nobles of her age to die from lead poisoning. Time passed by. At this moment, she was running frantically, pleading, Father, please listen to me. Isn't it strange? Mother didn't use cosmetics often, so it's strange that she suddenly. Hearing this, he couldn't contain his anger any longer and turned to look at her, immediately slapping her across the face and yelling, Shut up. She died from using lead-laced powder just to improve her appearance. What's the point of making a fuss about it now? Primrose paused to wipe his hand, as if Juria's skin were contaminated with lead, then continued, Anyway, both mother and daughter are. He then abruptly left, leaving Juria standing there alone. grappling with her emotional and physical wounds. Before being reborn, and even now, Mother was the only one who tried to protect me, and the only one who can protect her now is me. I definitely won't lose her in this life, and I will do everything for both our happiness. Since that incident, Lyrica hasn't appeared in front of me again. Zikazin also seems to be frightened and no longer provokes me senselessly like before. Thanks to that, I've been able to spend time with Mother and move around freely. That day, during afternoon tea, Juria casually asked, "Mother, I heard there's a festival coming up in a few days. Can we go together?" Hearing this, Lycidin smiled gently and said, "Of course. Let's go together." Juria asked excitedly, "Really?" After saying that, her eyes suddenly became melancholic, but the more happiness continued, the more worried she became because her mother's death was not far off. If Mother's death was someone's plot, the culprit is highly likely Lyrica. She thought, but suspicion alone isn't enough. I'll be seen as strange again if I don't have the reason. No matter who the culprit is, I need to find a way to stop them first, but there's no one to ask for help. It's so frustrating. These actions were conveniently caught by Lycidin's eyes, causing her to ask worriedly, "Juria, is something bothering you?" She immediately shook her head in denial. No. Her voice trailed off as she saw Lycidin cover her mouth with a cough. Juria quickly asked, "Mother, are you all right?" In her heart, she thought, she's coughing severely like she's coughing up blood. Wait. After Mother died in my past life, when I looked at the dishes she had used, there wasn't anything wrong with them. But what if someone mixed something in during the cooking process? Thinking of this, Juria softly called out, "Mother, I think I need to see the butler after tea." Very quickly afterward, the butler, having received the summons, immediately headed towards Lycidin's room and knocked. His voice rang out, "I heard you called for me." Seeing the man bowing respectfully before her, Juria thought to herself, the butler comes from a family that has served the Primrose House for generations. He has high self-esteem, and many servants trust and follow him. He's definitely a good person, but seeing him raise his head and frown at her, she wondered, isn't that attitude towards me a little disrespectful? Perhaps he sees me as a disgrace to the Primrose name? Finishing her thought, she said, "You, follow me to the kitchen for a moment." Hearing this, he asked in confusion, "The kitchen, you say? I apologize, but is there a problem? Is there something with the meal that didn't please you? If there's someone I need to discipline, please tell me." But before he could finish, Juria cut him off. "It's not like that," she added. Suddenly saying, "I'll go to the kitchen, a place I don't frequent, must be surprising and confusing for you as the head butler. But if I just wanted to scold someone, I would have gone alone. Don't you think there must be a good reason for me to call you to come with me? Regardless of what judgment we make afterward, right now, I want you to cooperate." Hearing this, the butler bowed and replied, "I've overstepped my bounds. I apologize, my lady." And so, the three of them proceeded to the kitchen. On the way, Juria thought to herself, "There's only one reason to bring the butler to the kitchen with me. Because my reputation with the servants isn't very good, I need to borrow the butler's trust and influence from now on." Having arrived at the kitchen door, the butler turned slightly and reminded her, "My lady, before you enter, I will go first." But before he could finish his reminder, Juria pushed the door open, causing him to cry out in alarm, "My lady." The people in the kitchen, seeing her sudden appearance, couldn't help but stare at each other, mouths agape. "Hey, Lady Juria, everyone greetings. Lady Juria is here." One even curiously ran to her side and inquired, "My lady, what brings you here?" But just like many other times, before he could finish, Juria interrupted, "I apologize for disturbing you while you're busy, but all of you must stop what you're doing right now and take your hands off the dishes." Hearing this, everyone's faces became doubly bewildered. "What?" she added, without taking her eyes off me. Realizing everyone's attention was on her, Julia adopted an authoritative posture, like the mistress of this palace, and commanded, "We need to confirm something, and you all are witnesses." Julia thought to herself, The most painful moment in my past life wasn't when I died. Asterisk, recalling the venomous voices from the past. Do you think the young miss will die like her mother? It's been 5 days since she locked herself in her room and refused to eat. That's what I'm saying. If she really dies, we could be in trouble too. Asterisk, asterisk. She shuts herself in her room every day. What's she doing in there? Julia was in her most alert state, gritting her teeth and enduring, just like after I lost my mother. Asterisk. Asterisk, I will find out the cause of her death and the one responsible for it. No matter what. Something I couldn't even imagine in my past life. Asterisk, the flashback ended there. Julia looked around the room and stopped in front of a small pot. The syrup my mother, Lycidin, always drank. If something happened, it means the one responsible is among those here. She continued to think, I will never let that happen again. Thinking this, Julia immediately ordered, all the servants currently working in the kitchen must. What? One of the servants there immediately replied, Yes, but what's going on, my lady? If you need anything, please let us know and we will. Julia cut them off. This is something I must do myself. Helping me means supervising me. Lycidin softly called, Lady Julia. The butler thought, asterisk, that young lady truly has the air of a commander. But what's that flower for? Asterisk. By now, Julia had approached the syrup pot. She took a flower out of her pocket, thinking, if my research and assumptions are correct, that reaction will definitely appear. The people outside, not understanding what was happening, cried out, Oh my goodness! There's something in Madame Lycidin's food. The butler ordered, Step back and be quiet. The head chef stammered, Yes, sir. Meanwhile, Julia was still thinking, asterisk, bacco is a tenacious plant that can be found everywhere year-round. Its color is the color of the plant itself, and it's not commonly used as medicine, so it's disregarded as an ordinary wildflower. However, when combined with lead, asterisk. At this moment, the reaction occurred. Smoke began to rise from the syrup pot. The servants started murmuring, What's with the sudden smoke? And that peculiar smell? A plume of smoke with the scent of poison wafted out, turning the lead black and the plant itself completely disintegrating. Seeing the expected result, Julia smiled smugly. Found you. Culprit. She said aloud, This looks like the syrup used in Lycidin's dessert. Who is responsible for this? A servant with pink hair raised her hand. Hey, it's me. Julia glared at her. How long have you been doing this? She thought, that girl. She's one of Lyrica's close maids. The pink-haired maid, sweating, replied, I started working here about 6 months ago and have been in charge of this since then. Is there a problem? Julia said, Butler, you saw what just happened, correct? He immediately replied, Yes, Lady Julia. She immediately raised her voice, Summon the knights, and arrest this maid. She is the culprit who attempted to assassinate the Duchess. The pink-haired maid asked in shock, Assassinate? My lady, what are you talking about? Julia replied, This is a type of flower that creates a toxic reaction when it comes into contact with lead. Hearing this, the maid cringed and said, Lead? What does that mean? Julia gestured to the pot behind her and replied, Exactly, it means that pot is made of lead. The pink-haired maid's face paled as she stammered, Lady Julia, there must be some misunderstanding. But before she could finish, the butler cut in and shouted, Do you understand the severity of this situation? The pink-haired maid cried out, Please wait, my lady. Wait, Lady Julia, I swear I'm innocent because the truth is this pot. At this point, she recalled Lyrica calling her over and asking, You're the new kitchen maid, right? How's the work going? Any difficulties? From the shadows, Lyrica's deceptively innocent face appeared, smiling enchantingly and comforting her. It's all right. If you need anything, just tell me. Captivated by this beauty, the pink-haired maid had remarked, Ah, Lady Lyrica, she's as beautiful and kind as rumored. But before she could finish, Lyrica cut in. Since we're close in age, I take a special interest in you. You're in charge of the dessert, aren't you? Is there anything inconvenient for you? The pink-haired maid shyly said, It's actually a bit inconvenient to use such a large and thick pot for something small like syrup. But I'm new here, so I'm not sure if I should complain about the cookware. Lyrica immediately dismissed her concern. It's all right. Actually, I noticed it when I watched you working. She picked up the smaller pot beside it. Here, use this from now on. It's much smaller, isn't it? The naive pink-haired maid said. Thank you so much, Lady Lyrica. In her heart, she thought, I can't believe she cares so much about a new maid like me. Lyrica gave a warm smile and replied, You're welcome. I just want to make your work a little easier. Hearing the whole story, Julia thought to herself, how could she be so kind? My mother loved this dessert and ate it every day. The meal menu could change, but the dessert remained the same. That must have made her much more susceptible to lead poisoning than just eating regular meals. Her face darkened. Yes, oh, it was my sister who killed her. She then said, Bring Lyrica here. Receiving the order from her, the butler immediately signaled to a servant. Didn't you hear, Lady Julia? Hurry up. The head chef responded in a panic, yes, right away. Julia thought to herself, but Lyrica is no ordinary opponent. As she thought after being called, Lyrica said, Indeed. I was the one who gave her the pot. I felt sorry for her, seeing her work so hard all day. Hearing those words, the pink-haired maid said emotionally, Lady Lyrica. But the butler persisted, If you don't mind, miss, could you tell us where you bought that pot? Lyrica feigned ignorance, replying, Ahem, it was from a street I used to visit often as a child. I went back there recently and bought it. The seller said it was beautiful and durable, but I had no idea it was made of lead. The butler, annoyed, asked directly, Which street was that? Do you remember what the seller looked like? Lyrica continued her charade. I don't quite remember. The other servants scoffed amongst themselves. You're saying you bought a pot from a street you can't even remember and gave it directly to a maid? Yes, and to the maid in charge of preparing the madam's dessert, no less. Lyrica hastily asked, Don't you think there's something strange about this? But you know, this dessert was eaten by me, my mother, and even my sister. If I knew it was dangerous, I would never have eaten it myself. She then put on a pitiful expression. Oh, I've been wronged. Julia thought to herself, devious, tried to evade the truth again. I clearly remember her. At the dining table, Lyrica had feigned weakness, telling everyone, I'm not feeling well, so I'll stop eating dessert from now on. Then she lowered her head, wiping her mouth with a handkerchief. Julia had asked worriedly, Should we call a doctor? Remembering this, Julia continued her thought process. She's been avoiding desserts for 6 months now. Before, she was crazy about anything sweet. She deliberately meant to poison Mother and me. Mother, being older, has been most affected by it. But if I continued eating it, I know for sure what would happen to me. Having reached this conclusion, Julia stated firmly, I don't know where that pot came from. But using unverified cookware is a mistake. Do you admit to that? Lyrica's eyes darted to the person beside her, her voice stammering, Julia knew her too well. She thought, someone has to take responsibility for this, and usually the one who takes the fall is. The maid gave a strained smile, trying to plead for help. Lady Lyrica, you clearly intended for it to be used for cooking. Julia chuckled inwardly. How naive of you to trust someone like her. Just as she thought, Lyrica coldly said to the maid, Are you out of your mind? When did I ever say to use it to make dessert for Mother? I clearly said it was for decoration. You're not going to tell me I'm lying, are you? Julia felt a pang of pity. Such a wretched and pitiful creature. She'll discard even those closest to her without hesitation. Looking at the maid, she continued her thought. In my past life, there was nothing she wouldn't do for Lyrica. At this moment, the maid was stunned by Lyrica's cruel words. She called out in disbelief, Be but my lady. Around them, whispers erupted. What happened? I see. Meanwhile, Julia thought, Fortunately, Lyrica is worse than I thought. I think I can get my revenge on her. Much easier now. Finally, the incident came to a close. As she was being escorted out, the maid still held onto the hope that Lyrica would save her. She turned back and cried out, My lady. Julia continued to think, blaming the maid for using improper cookware. She's punished, and the matter concludes. Urge. The punishment could be very severe. Finally, the maid confessed all her sins. I was wrong, Lady Lyrica. Immediately afterward, a series of murmurs rippled through the room that, oh my, a lead pot? It could have killed Madame Lycidon. Julia rushed forward to support her shocked and dazed mother. That, oh, mother! The butler also called out worriedly, Madam. Someone asked curiously, why would the maid do such a thing? Did she not think about how this would end? Julia thought to herself, and this incident has caused unease among Lyrica's subordinates. It's best not to be associated with those in high positions. Meanwhile, Lyrica was holding her forehead in anger, her eyes wide. How did she know? How did that woman, Julia, find out? Suddenly, a suspicion arose in her mind. Wait, could it be that one of my subordinates has joined Julia's side? Julia thought. Moreover, Lyrica has started to lose trust in her own people. At that moment, Julia was having tea with her mother. Madame Lycidon suddenly said, "Thank you, Julia. Thanks to you, I survived." Julia worriedly speculated. The shock must have taken a toll on her. She's become much thinner these past few days. She reminded her mother, "Mother, it's still too early to be relieved. We don't know how much lead has accumulated in your body from the desserts until now." Julia looked at the teacup on the table and continued, "You should avoid using all products containing lead from now on. It's probably best." She smiled and took out an item. "Actually, I prepared this for you." Madame Lycidon asked in surprise, "Prepared?" Julia pushed a small box in front of her and explained, "It's a moisturizing cream made from calendula flowers. I made it myself." Madame Lycidon was utterly astonished. "Moisturizing cream made from flowers?" Julia smiled and said, "Yes, since you have dry skin, if you focus on moisturizing, you won't need to use powder anymore." Madame Lycidon was puzzled. "But don't these flowers only bloom in certain seasons?" Julia replied, "I had a little help, thanks to my ability." Lycidon gasped, "Ability? What do you mean?" Based on the original novel setting, the children of the Primrose family are granted special powers passed down through generations. This power is called a blessing that Zekai's received the blessing of the sword, while Lyrica has yet to fully manifest her blessing of healing, and I received the blessing of growth. I was once so angry that I trembled. This is unbelievable. It doesn't work on animals or people. She held her forehead and wondered, is growing plants all I can do? But when I saw the sprout beside me, I immediately refuted, "No, that's not it." She gritted her teeth, trying to use her ability again. "There has to be more." After doing some research, what I learned from my ability is that I can make plants grow rapidly in any environment. And the plants I grow contain a special power. In my past life, I never had the chance to use this ability before I died. But in this life, I want to find a way to utilize it. That's when I thought of cosmetics. Julia smugly thought her hobby in her past life of making natural cosmetics had become useful. Excitedly, she suggested to her mother, "How about you try it now?" Lady Lycidon dabbed some cream on her hand and asked, "Should I?" But upon seeing its effects, she exclaimed in astonishment, "Oh my, it's so soft and moisturizing." Seeing this, Julia was overjoyed that there weren't any allergic reactions. She took Lycidon's hand and said, "I'll apply it for you." Lady Lycidon's hand was enveloped in Julia's. "You've really gone to a lot of trouble." For me, slightly surprised, Julia still reached out and hugged her mother. Lycidon continued, "You've worked so hard, my daughter." Outside the castle, someone suddenly called out, "Your Highness." The butler bowed his head and said to Enoch, "Preparations for your outing are complete, Your Highness." Prince Enoch Pius nodded and said, "Thank you. I'll leave now." Outside the main hall, someone's flattering voice rang out, "It's been a while since you joined us, and you've become even more beautiful than before." As expected of Duchess Primrose, Lycidon smiled and replied, "Thank you for the compliment. I hope everyone is well." A woman, clearly envious, said, "But your skin is so smooth. Could you tell us what you use?" Lycidon explained to the group, "I don't use any specific products, just a moisturizing cream." As soon as she finished speaking, a series of gasps arose. "Really? And it makes your skin so radiant and firm." "Madam, May I ask what kind of cream you use? Lycidon lowered her head and said mysteriously, the creator of this cream made me promise to keep it a secret for now. I'll reveal it later. Julia, standing behind her, thought happily, you look amazing, mother. My mother's decision to solidify her position in high society was a success. Everyone avoided mentioning the scandal between Vela and Lyrica. Instead, they all focused on Mother. Now, Lady Lycidon was surrounded by many young women. They kept asking her, oh my, really? You promised? How could you be acquainted with such a talented person? Julia worriedly thought, but how long will you be stuck like this? However, the downside is that you become too popular. The scene had spread outside the kingdom. Julia curiously asked, Mother, it seems you've been busy lately. Lycidon explained that invitations had been pouring in from everywhere since that day. She said cheerfully, today, I received a few invitations, but because I decided to go out with you, I declined them all. Julia exclaimed in surprise, really? She thought happily, I'm glad your health has recovered recently, Mother. Lady Lycidon suddenly exclaimed, oh, since we're out, let's stop by the dress shop. Lycidon reached for the doorknob. She laughed happily. I want to get that beautiful dress tailored for you. Julia smiled and replied, yes, I'd love that. As soon as they stepped inside, a surprised voice rang out, oh, Duchess Primrose, Miss Julia, welcome. Lycidon said apologetically, I'm sorry for not informing you beforehand. I'd like to get a dress made for my daughter. The shop assistant replied, oh, the dress you ordered earlier is finished. I'll help you try it on while you're here. Another maid smiled and said, while you look at the design, I'll get you some warm tea. Julia readily agreed, all right. Now, she was holding a cup of tea in her hand. As she sipped, Julia happily thought, it's been a while since I've felt this peaceful. I wish these peaceful days would continue. Suddenly, another voice cut through her thoughts. The evening seems promising. Julia thought in surprise, that voice. Marcel Vela smoothed his hair back, laughed loudly, and said, what a coincidence to meet you in a place like this. Julia coldly asked, what are you doing here? She thought to herself, this insolent man, could he be following me? And that smell, had they been drinking at this hour? Marcel's voice, dripping with disdain, rang out, I've been hearing news about you and your mother almost every day lately. I feel like I'm spinning in hell. It seems like you and your mother are up to something. He suddenly lunged towards Julia. After grabbing her slender wrist, Marcel said, because of your schemes, Lyrica is avoiding me. A maid anxiously asked, what should we do? The dress shop owner exclaimed, how can he treat the young lady like this? Julia coldly warned Marcel, enough, Vela. Why are you blaming me for what happened between the two of you? Marcel's face twisted as he laughed, and he frantically asked, blame you? His voice, filled with rage, echoed throughout the room. You think I don't know that all of this is your doing? How could you threaten my innocent Lyrica like that? Julia coldly replied, that's ridiculous. Isn't it because you lack appeal that Lyrica's feelings faded? So why are you taking your anger out on me? Marcel's veins bulged with anger at her words, and he gritted his teeth. Right now, he yelled. What the hell did you just say? Julia cried out. Her captured hand trembled. Julia cursed inwardly, this bastard, he's going to break my wrist. How pathetic. To think I once liked someone like him. So irrational and violent. She formed a plan. I need to quickly get help from the knights outside. She said to the others in pain, what are you all standing around for? Quickly, call someone. Julia realized and thought to herself, he's losing his mind because he's drunk. At her prompting, the others hurriedly said, yes, yes. A maid anxiously urged, hurry, call someone. Enoch suddenly appeared, grabbing Marcel's hand, and ordered, enough, stop it. Marcel said fearfully, what? You? Enoch gave him a cold look that I don't want to get involved in personal matters, but I can't just stand by and watch. Julia looked at Enoch and said in surprise, Your Highness. Marcel gritted his teeth and addressed him, Crown Prince. Enoch coldly accused him, Vela, seeing you accuse someone else for your failed relationship, especially your former fiancée, Lady Julia Primrose. It seems you're not even fit to be a nobleman, let alone a knight. Julia's eyes widened in surprise. She wondered, why is the crown prince here? And once again, he's helping me. Actually, something similar happened before I was reborn. At a party, whispers filled the air. Did you see who Vieira is dancing with? She's been pursuing him for so long, but she still can't catch his eye. If it weren't for her being a duke's daughter, she wouldn't even be engaged. Honestly, if I were Vieira, I'd reject that eldest daughter. Pretty face, but quite the strange personality, right? Frankly, besides being the legitimate daughter, she is nothing to boast about. At that moment, Marcel was dancing merrily with Lyrica. Someone expressed their regret, saying, if it were Lady Lyrica instead of her, it would be much better. Julia thought to herself, although those are excessive and rude assessments, I can't argue with them, because even I think those are accurate statements. And even if I try to get an apology here, it won't be sincere, and in the end, I'll just be seen as the troublemaker who ruined the party because of my stubbornness. Leaving quietly is probably the wisest choice. Having thought this, she turned to leave. Suddenly, Enoch's voice rang out. But on second thought, Lord Vieira, inviting the sister of your fiancé to dance, don't you have a problem with that? Hearing those words, Julia turned around in surprise. Although she had no further interaction with the crown prince after that, those words were etched in her mind until the end of her previous life, before she was reborn. Inside the dress shop, Enoch's voice echoed. More than just slander, you assaulted a frail young woman. He looked at Marcel with contempt. I'm truly ashamed to share the same gender as you. Marcel, panicked, started to make excuses. No, Your Highness, there must be a misunderstanding. I was taken advantage of by this woman. Enoch, unable to stand his cowardice, questioned him. So you're saying Lady Julia Primrose threatened you in a chasing after her own sister? Marcel stammered fearfully, it's not like that. I was tricked. Suddenly, Enoch cut him off. You were tricked into not knowing you were having an affair with her own sister and still wanted to get engaged? Then he turned to Julia, who was standing dumbfounded beside them. Isn't that right, Lady Julia Primrose? Once again, Julia was reminiscing. That voice, calm but firm, just like when he was by her side. At this moment, Lycidon rushed over in a panic. Julia, are you all right? Oh my, your wrist. Seeing that everyone's attention was on Julia, Marcel stood to the side, uneasy. Lycidon turned to him and yelled, What have you done? Marcel, ashamed, decided to make a run for it. He turned to leave. Come to think of it, I have an appointment with the Earl this afternoon, but I forgot. I'll excuse myself, Your Highness. Watching him flee, Julia thought to herself, that man is still cowardly to the very end, running away without apologizing or resolving anything. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. That man. Suddenly, Enoch spoke up. You don't need to pay attention to that kind of petty person, Lady Primrose. Then he offered his concern. Moreover, could you let me see your hand? As Enoch examined the injury on Julia's hand, he exclaimed, It's fortunate that it's not broken, but... He looked at her hand sympathetically and said, The skin is scraped. Julia, unconcerned, replied, It's all right. It'll heal quickly. Hearing her lack of concern for herself, Enoch didn't know how to react. Lycidon, sitting next to Julia, quickly stood up and bowed. Your Highness, thank you for helping my daughter. Enoch replied, It was nothing, Duchess Primrose. Not wanting to make her uncomfortable, Enoch chuckled and explained, Haha, I just happened to be passing by due to Vivian's request, and I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Please sit down, madam. Sure enough, after Enoch's words, Lycidon regained her composure and inquired, Speaking of which, it's been a while since I've seen Her Highness the Princess. I heard she hasn't been well. Is that right? Enoch replied softly, She's always been like that. Lycidon offered comfort. Her Highness is still young. She'll get better. Enoch agreed, Haha, indeed. I hope she'll recover soon so she can go out like the two of you. Julia looked at him in surprise and asked, Princess Vivian isn't well. At this point, Enoch's voice suddenly dropped. It's not anything too serious, but I hope you two can keep what I say today a secret. According to the Crown Prince, Princess Vivian's skin deteriorated significantly around the age of 10. Because of that, she became insecure and has been confining herself to her room. She also refuses to see anyone except the crown prince and a few close maids who have been with her since childhood. However, she's always been curious about news and trends in high society. Enoch spoke at length, then continued, "That's why I came to see the dressmaker today." He confided, "She's curious about the current fashion trends. I thought telling her about things outside would encourage her to go out. And the reason I'm telling you too this." Pausing for a moment, Enoch immediately stated his intention. "I heard the Duchess's skin has improved a great deal. Even without using any products, your skin has become smoother." Lysidon was surprised when Enoch asked for her help. "If you have any secrets, madam, I hope you can tell me." He looked at her sincerely and asked, "Could you share them with me? I will certainly compensate you appropriately." Julia sensed Enoch's sincerity. He wasn't using helping her as a pretense, nor was he using his status as crown prince. Julia thought to herself, a bit lacking in nobility, but truly a captivating person. After considering, she said, "Your Highness, the reason my mother's skin improved is because of the cosmetics I gave her." Enoch was overjoyed to hear her answer. "Really? If I give her the same kind, then?" Julia suddenly interrupted him. "No." She seriously stated her opinion. "I apologize, but that won't do." Lysidon, fearing she had offended the prince, exclaimed, "Julia!" But Julia didn't waver and continued to explain, "Everyone has different skin." She carefully explained to him, "And I can't guarantee the ingredients in the cosmetics will suit Her Highness. I can't recommend the same kind. It could cause side effects." After listening, Enoch understood. Is that so? He seemed saddened by the answer. The atmosphere fell silent. After a few minutes, Julia suddenly had a plan. It seems I'll have to meet the princess directly." Enoch immediately looked up at her. "You mean face to face?" Julia calmly replied, "Yes, the one who made the cosmetics my mother uses is me." Enoch was completely stunned, frozen for a few seconds. In the evening at the royal palace, the princess's residence, a maid pushed a food cart while complaining. "This is so tiring. They asked me to bring food all the way to the princess's palace. Bringing it here is one thing, but when do I have to clean up is another matter." The maid pushed the cart to a door and knocked. "Your Highness," she announced, "dinner is ready." After waiting a few minutes without hearing a reply, the maid worried, "Why isn't anyone answering? Should I go in? I heard the princess is very ill. If I go in, will I get infected?" The maid decided to call out again, "Your Highness." Suddenly, Dahlia appeared from behind and said, "Is this your first time here?" The maid quickly replied, Yes." Seeing that she was new and might not know the rules, Dahlia reminded her, "From now on, just leave the food there and knock. Her Highness doesn't like to be disturbed, so absolutely do not enter." After the maid left, Dahlia quietly knocked. "Your Highness, it's Dahlia." Dahlia added, "No one else, just me." As soon as she finished speaking, Vivian said, "Come in." A few days later, an invitation from the crown prince was sent to the duke's residence. A voice rang out, "No, for Miss Julia? Did you mistake me for someone else?" The knight immediately corrected, "No, that's correct." He requested to invite Miss Julia Primrose. Julia sat in her room, looking out the window, and saw a royal carriage waiting below. She rested her chin in her hand and thought, "He's in a hurry." When she met the crown prince a few days prior, Julia remembered saying, "Yes, I make cosmetics for my mother." At that time, Enoch looked very surprised. "Really? Not that I doubt your abilities, but—" She replied, "Yes, I understand what you mean. It's hard to believe that an ordinary noble lady like me could do such a thing. Moreover, until now, there haven't been any cosmetics that guarantee effectiveness. If you go to the market now, you'll hear everyone say, mixing monster horn powder with milk is the way to take care of your skin. That makes the skin condition worse. It leads to a cycle of covering up blemishes with lead-containing products." Julia sincerely recounted, "Actually, my mother's health isn't good, so I always hoped she wouldn't use cosmetics with such poor quality ingredients, so I researched how to grow plants and make cosmetics myself. After speaking her mind, she thought to herself, I've been honest, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't believe me. I'll ask him to keep it a secret. But Enoch surprised her. Then I have a favor to ask of Miss Primrose. He smiled and made a proposal. It would be wonderful if you could meet my sister. It will take some time to convince her, but I hope you can wait. Recalling the situation at that time, Julia felt he was very gentle. She secretly wished, what if he were my brother? I'm jealous of Her Highness again. A moment later, the knight bowed. Greetings, Miss Julia Primrose. We will depart as soon as you board the carriage. Julia was about to get into the carriage when a cry stopped her. Sister! Lyrica rushed over, exclaiming, the royal carriage. What's going on? Julia saw her coming and turned to look, thinking, she's quick too. At the same time, she casually replied, well, that's how it is. I'm off. Lyrica lost her composure and blurted out, well, that's how it is. What the hell did you do? She immediately realized her slip-up and corrected herself. I apologize. Julia was thoroughly exasperated. Lyrica had always openly ignored her, yet Julia had maintained the minimum courtesy expected of a lady. What do you mean? Say that again. Lyrica feigned innocence. Oh, please don't misunderstand. I'm just worried since you've never handled important matters. It's just... Wouldn't I be more suitable if it's a family matter? Julia glanced away, thinking she's not even bothering to hide her intentions. Come to think of it, before her rebirth, Lyrica had always been interested in the royal family, especially the crown prince. She would do anything to appear at parties where he was present. Julia saw right through Lyrica's thoughts. What she's thinking is so obvious. Suddenly, Lyrica exclaimed, Sister! She put on an air of nonchalance, but her words seemed deliberately pointed. It hasn't been long since your engagement was broken off, and everyone's still watching you. Wouldn't it be better to keep a low profile? I'll go in your place. Even the knights waiting noticed. How can she be so rude? Julia stared at Lyrica and replied, You want to arbitrarily change the person summoned by the royal family? Julia was inwardly amused. Are you feeling uneasy, or have you truly gone too far? Sure enough, upon hearing Julia's words, Lyrica immediately responded, I can get ready right away. Before she could finish, a voice interrupted her. I apologize, but the knight stepped forward to explain. The crown prince specifically requested to meet Lady Julia Primrose. If we delay any further, I'm afraid we'll be late for the appointment. Lyrica's face fell. Really? Is that so? Seeing her expression change so drastically, the knight became slightly tense. Yes, that is correct. Lyrica immediately recovered and adjusted to her innocent demeanor. I apologize. I must have been a bit too much. I was just worried about my dear sister. Then, she tucked her hair behind her ear and smiled brightly. Have a good time, sister. Looking at Lyrica's forced smile, Julia felt a sense of satisfaction. Asterisk, you must be feeling quite uncomfortable. You think I don't know the real face behind that smile? Now I can act just as well as you. Asterisk with that thought, Julia cheerfully replied, ignoring Lyrica's stiff expression. Thank you, Lyrica. Those words are precious. I understand your feelings, just as you're worried. As the knight helped her into the carriage, Julia continued, rumors can be quite frightening. Meanwhile, she thought, now then, I'll show you what it feels like to have your world crumble. And then she spoke, even if you didn't mean it would be quite terrifying if rumors spread that you were seducing my fiancé. Perhaps you shouldn't ignore the advice of someone with experience. Lyrica's voice dropped when she heard Julia's words, sister. But Julia added fuel to the fire. You haven't forgotten Mother's question, have you? She turned back to look at Lyrica and said, instead of worrying about me, why don't you and Marcel wear matching colors and pretend to be lovers? Lyrica paled at Julia's words. That would be better for your alibi. This is sincere advice. From your sister. With that, the carriage departed the estate, leaving Lyrica standing there dumbfounded. She started overthinking and placing blame that I was suspicious from the beginning. but it really was you. Julia, you were behind all of this, weren't you? Next, Lyrica bent down, chuckling to herself. Yes, this is how it should be. This is great. She began to plot. Just you wait and see. Elsewhere, Julia had arrived at the royal palace. She extended her hand for the knight to help her out of the carriage. Julia carefully stepped down. As soon as her feet touched the ground, the knight quickly announced, "We have arrived, Miss Julia Primrose." Julia was unaware that Lyrica, back at the mansion, was secretly scheming. "I'll steal everything from you." After passing through the entrance of the royal palace, it took a while to reach the princess's quarters. Even though this was my idea, I'm still a little nervous about meeting her, she thought. After walking down a long hallway, a maid was waiting for her at the entrance. She politely said, "We've been expecting you, Miss Primrose. I am Dahlia, Her Highness's handmaid. I will show you the way." Julia was quite surprised by the warm welcome. She softly replied, After walking for a while, they reached the princess's room. The maid knocked carefully on the door and announced, "Your Highness, it is I. I have brought Miss Primrose." Vivian replied, "Enter." Julia slowly stepped inside. When she saw Vivian, she quickly greeted her. "It is an honor to meet you, Your Highness. I come from the Duke's house." Vivian immediately said, "There's no need for formalities. Please have a seat, Miss Julia Primrose." Julia obeyed and quickly sat down, gently picking up a teacup. After taking a sip, she complimented, "This tea is delicious. What kind of tea do you usually drink, Your Highness?" Vivian remained silent, lost in thought. Because she wore a black lace veil covering her face, it made it difficult for Julia to read her expression. Julia was inwardly annoyed. "I'm going to go crazy. She's been like this for an hour. I have to try to create a good atmosphere before bringing up the skincare topic, but she's so guarded that I haven't gotten anywhere." While Julia was discouraged, Vivian's mind was filled with questions about her. Why did he bring someone like her here? Even I know the rumors surrounding Julia Primrose. Hot-tempered, rude, foolish, and always causing trouble. She doesn't fit the image of a noble lady at all. And the reason I agreed to meet her was because an unpleasant memory replayed in Vivian's mind. She had witnessed the other young ladies whispering and gossiping. They mocked her, the princess's face. It's quite frightening, isn't it? It's true. She used to be very beautiful, but with her skin like that. Honestly, Miss Lyrica Primrose is much more beautiful now. Just look at Miss Lyrica's porcelain white skin. It's so beautiful. Lyrica, standing amidst the praises, feigned shyness and said, "Oh my, everyone, you're too kind. Of course, if my skin were like that, I wouldn't want to live either. But even so, I always admire Her Highness's nobility." These words were a knife twisting into her insecurities. Lyrica pretended not to notice, continuing to smile shyly. "If it were me, I wouldn't dare leave the house." Vivian silently suffered. The words they wouldn't dare say to my face. Such trivial gossip. Why do I have to endure such words? It's not like I wanted this. What do they know? I hate this. If I have to live like this, I'd rather. While she was struggling, hugging herself, a strong voice rang out. Lyrica, flustered, said, "Sister, sister." Julia, hands on her hips, with a displeased expression, raised her voice and reminded her, "Do you think you're so great? Why would you say such things?" Thanks to that image, Vivian had a deep impression of her. She muttered, "At that time, she was the only one who stood by me." And she smiled and recounted to Vivian in a gentle voice, "Actually, I encountered a bit of trouble, and His Highness happened to be passing by and helped me. I ran into my former fiancé at the tailor's shop, and he threatened me." As she spoke, she pulled off her white glove, revealing the still swollen bruises on her wrist. Seeing this, Vivian stood up, losing her composure. She exclaimed with pity, "Oh my, what is this?" Julia quickly added, "If it weren't for His Highness, my wrist would have been broken." Vivian felt indignant on her behalf. She angrily exclaimed, "Marcel Vieira is such a scoundrel." Having said that, Vivian gently took Julia's injured hand in both of hers. "If it were me, I would have." But honestly, why were you engaged to such a man? Julia was a little taken aback. Feeling that she had gotten a little too carried away, Vivian said sheepishly, "Ah, I apologize. I must have misspoken, and you probably didn't know he was that kind of person when you were engaged, right?" Julia smiled faintly. She thought to herself, "It seems she's just like other girls her age. Anyway, I'm glad the atmosphere is more relaxed now. It's time to get down to business." Julia began to speak seriously. "Your Highness, as His Highness the Crown Prince mentioned, everyone has different skin types, so I think it would be better to use cosmetics specifically made for Your Highness, which is why I came here today. If it's all right, could I see your face?" Vivian didn't react. Seeing this, Julia gave a bright smile. She said sincerely, "It won't take long. It will be quick." At this moment, Vivian's mind was in turmoil. My face. Does she want to see this hideous face? She bit her lip and said anxiously, "But will seeing my face help Miss Primrose cure it? You're not a doctor or a priestess." Julia silently assessed. That firm tone is her way of protecting herself. To her, I'm probably just an untrustworthy stranger. Even so, the fact that she agreed to meet me means she wants to grasp at even the slightest hope. Thinking this, she didn't hesitate to offer reassurance. "Your Highness is right. I am not a priestess or a doctor. Perhaps my mother was just lucky, and my products might not be effective for Your Highness." Julia suddenly stepped forward, taking Vivian's stiff hand, looking directly at her with concern, and said, "But I came here today for Your Highness. I can't guarantee results, but I will do everything in my power to help you." Vivian's gaze towards Julia wavered slightly. She said in a low voice, "Truly, I'm surprised. You can't promise you can cure it, and you're not sure if my condition will improve, but you still came all this way." After a long pause, Vivian gently placed her other hand on top of Julia's, softly saying, "Despite everything, I believe you. I've heard countless promises that I would surely get better, and none of them were true." Next, Vivian put on a resolute expression. She declared clearly, "So, Julia Primrose, I will trust you." With Vivian's permission, Julia moved closer and softly said, "Then, I shall begin." She gently lifted Vivian's veil and silently assessed. "The princess's condition is more severe than I thought." Julia voiced her question, "Your Highness, what kind of treatment have you received so far?" Vivian spoke in a subdued voice. "His Majesty the Emperor brought the priests of the temple to assist me, but the effects were only temporary. It never fully healed. It was the same with the saints and mages. So, I don't expect much from Miss Primrose either. Moreover, due to personal reasons, I wasted the divine power that should have been used to heal the sick. Even if I were to get better, I wouldn't have the face to appear before the public anymore. I'm content with my current life. I've grown accustomed to living like this." "You don't need to overexert yourself, Julia Primrose." These words caused Julia to pause for a few seconds. She pondered, "When I first came here, I only thought about repaying the crown prince. But now," her lips gradually pressed together, "I want to help the girl in front of me at any cost." Thinking this, Julia slowly bowed. "I have completed my examination, Your Highness. I will do my best." Vivian covered her face with her own hands, inwardly worrying, having to struggle with something like this and having to look at my face. It must be difficult for her. A while later, Vivian and Julia left the room. As they walked, Julia silently considered various medicinal ingredients. It's better to start with lavender and aloe. Lavender is a common plant, so it's fine, but aloe vera might be a little hard to find. Aloe is essential for softening the skin, but the source of the ingredients and where to grow them. Suddenly, as if understanding Julia's concerns, Vivian spoke up. "Miss, I will lend you my royal garden. Since no one is there, it will be a good place to make cosmetics without attracting attention. If you need anything, just tell me, and I'll bring it to you." Julia felt a little embarrassed. She quickly declined. "You don't need to do that, Your Highness." Vivian didn't let her finish, "Since I will be using the plants and the cosmetics you make, and you've already gone to such lengths for me, please let me help." Julia still felt it wasn't right. She added, "But..." Vivian spoke firmly, This is a royal command. Hearing this, Julia let out a sigh. She softly agreed, "Yes, Your Highness." And, as I said, I can't guarantee it will be completely effective, but it will certainly be better than that powdered monster bone concoction in the rumors. Even if my cosmetics don't satisfy you, please don't resort to that. Vivian replied, "I know that's useless." Next, she expressed some confusion. "But why does the fact that you're making cosmetics need to be kept a secret? If it's successful, your standing will rise considerably." Julia honestly replied, "Well, my reputation isn't very good. If rumors of the princess associating with me spread, it won't be good for anyone." Hearing this, Vivian silently reproached herself. "I feel ashamed and guilty. I also know the rumors surrounding her, even though she's the one who helped me when I was young." Vivian's gaze towards Julia was filled with remorse. "Miss, you can be more confident. You don't need to worry about my reputation either." Julia exclaimed in shock. "Your Highness!" Suddenly, Enoch spoke. "Are you both here?" His presence seemed to bathe the surroundings in a golden light, accompanied by the warmth of his gentle smile. "Were you two having a pleasant conversation?" Vivian suddenly wondered. "Brother, why did you come without telling me?" Julia formally curtsied. "Greetings, Your Imperial Highness." Enoch looked at Julia affectionately. He spoke softly. "I apologize for not seeing you after inviting you. By the way," he suddenly called out, "Vivian, it seems you've opened up to Miss Primrose. This is the first time I've seen you talk to someone other than Dahlia." Vivian didn't expect Enoch to say this in front of Julia. She angrily snapped, "Brother, what the heck are you saying?" Julia felt a little awkward, thinking they're arguing, but Vivian, now annoyed, wanted to send Enoch away. "You're smiling cheerfully after just upsetting me. Go away." Seeing this scene, Julia thought, they seem very close. Enoch suddenly turned his gaze to Julia. "Miss Julia, are you about to leave?" Julia was startled. She replied, "Oh yes." Enoch warmly offered, "I'll escort you to your carriage. Let's go." Vivian silently watched Julia's carriage gradually depart. Enoch suddenly called out to her, "Vivian, I never thought you'd talk to someone for so long. So what do you think of her?" Vivian calmly replied, "Julia Primrose is very different from other ladies." Enoch showed concern, curiously asking, "It's been a while since you said that. How is she different?" Vivian seriously remarked, "She doesn't treat me with pity. Not then, not now." "You think so too, right?" Enoch felt relieved upon hearing this. He replied, "Well," but in his mind he thought, "What I remember is Julia's voice when she was little, innocently calling me, 'Your Highness. How are you today?' He secretly felt a flutter in his heart. Julia's smile is like warm sunlight. It feels a bit strange to say that, doesn't it?" Thinking this, he continued, "I won't comment further." Vivian was a little surprised. She asked back, "Oh, really?" Seeing that he didn't want to talk anymore, Vivian turned to leave. "How boring. Well, I'll be going now." Enoch was full of suspicion. "Huh? Aren't we done with today's schedule?" Vivian replied cheerfully, "I have to go get what I promised to give Miss Julia." Having said that, she quickly instructed her maid carefully, "Dahlia, do you have the notes Miss Primrose wrote down earlier? Contact the largest and fastest trading company to order everything." The maid smiled and replied, "Yes, Your Highness." Vivian continued, and, after the door closed, Enoch breathed a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with an indescribable emotion. He thought to himself, "She hasn't noticed, right?" A few days later, Julia suddenly exclaimed, "It's done." She sighed in relief as she looked at the hourglass on the table, happily thinking, "I finished it on time." Julia reminisced about the product creation process. "Some plants couldn't adapt to the palace environment, so I used too much magic. Overdoing it caused Julia to have a nosebleed and faint on the spot." Oh, that scene made Vivian scream. Julia Primrose, make sure to close the lid on this product tightly. Julia thought to herself, "There's a limit to its use. Mass production is impossible. Come to think of it, has anyone contacted me yet? They said they'd be here right away." Just then, a persistent knocking startled Julia. Annoyed, she thought, "What is it?" Jackizan carelessly opened the door. He barked her full name, Julia Primrose. Are you out of your mind? She wondered, alarmed. Why is he here? Jackizan's expression was furious, his eyes blazing. Even if there's a connection, he's not family. Jackizan put on an arrogant air and interrogated her. Did the prince really invite you, or are you making it up again? The butler, who had been standing behind him, spoke politely. I apologize for the interruption, Sir Jackizan. Miss Julia, but Her Highness the Princess is waiting. Hearing this, Jackizan paled. He turned around, bewildered, and asked the butler, What did you say? What? You're saying Her Highness came here personally? Julia glared at Jackizan as if he were an obstacle. Exasperated, she said, If you have nothing more to say, please move. We can't keep Her Highness waiting. Jackizan was stunned. Julia, how could you? Julia ignored his reproaches and walked past him, replying calmly, If you're curious, I'll explain later, but I'm busy now. Her pace quickened. She inwardly blamed him, thinking, because of Jackizan, I've made Her Highness wait. He's never helpful. I have to hurry. Suddenly, Vivian's voice rang out, full of anger. Enough. I made it clear I came to see Julia. Yet you dare waste my time with such trivial matters? Even when I told you to bring Julia to me, you pretended not to hear. Do you think I'm a joke? Miss Lyrica Primrose. After hearing Vivian's rapid-fire words, Lyrica cowered, her face filled with terror. Her voice trembled as she said, Why, Your Highness, I was only... Vivian was furious. She said sternly, Let me say this again. I have no business with you, Lyrica Primrose. Just then, Julia quickly spoke up. I apologize for my tardiness, Your Highness. Hearing her voice, Lyrica thought in a panic that voice. Julia, she appears at time like this? It's always like this. Julia placed a hand on her chest and apologized formally. I apologize for my younger sister's childish behavior. Perhaps I haven't taught her properly. This made Lyrica bite her lip hard enough to draw blood. She fumed inwardly. Childish? Failure to teach me properly? She's humiliating me in front of the princess. Vivian turned her gaze to Lyrica, her voice calmer now. All right, I'll overlook this for Julia's sake. Then, she followed Julia as they left the area. Lyrica trembled with rage, consumed by jealousy. Julia Primrose. How could she get close to the princess? If I had the ability to heal, I could have helped the princess recover and gained her favor instead of letting Julia do it. In another room, Vivian asked curiously, Is this a new beauty product? Julia replied, No, Your Highness. It's the same cream as last time. But this time, I've added a natural floral fragrance. I thought you might enjoy the scent. Vivian praised her. Pleased, Primrose, you're always so thoughtful. Julia added, if you don't like it, I can adjust it. Vivian spoke softly. No, I appreciate the thought, but that's not why I came today. Julia looked surprised. She wondered, really? Then what brings you here? Vivian became slightly flustered. Well, the thing is, I haven't fully recovered yet, so it's still difficult to go out without my veil. She then slowly lifted her veil. Julia was taken aback. Vivian's voice was filled with joy. She said, But I want to thank you personally. Face to face. A beautiful, radiant face appeared before Julia. Vivian continued, a little awkwardly, From now on, I'd like to be called by your name. It's hard to tell you and your sister apart since you share the same last name. Is it all right if we continue? Even though we aren't meeting to discuss cosmetics. The results, although not entirely successful, were satisfactory enough to leave Julia completely stunned. She responded flustered, Of course, Your Highness. If that's what you wish. I also enjoy our conversations. Vivian gave a gentle smile. She cheerfully complimented Julia. You're such a sweet talker. It makes me feel like I've made a friend. I haven't been out in so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to have a companion. Julia, overflowing with happiness, thought a friend? Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever had a friend before. She replied shyly, It's an honor that you consider me a friend, Your Highness. Vivian smiled brightly at her. Then let's get along from now on, Julia. Vivian asked, surprised at business. Julia lowered her head, troubled. Yes, I'm thinking of starting a business. For cosmetics. Not just for my mother and you, but for anyone who needs these products. Inwardly, she thought, also, while making cosmetics for Her Highness, I discovered that they can also act as a healing ointment. Currently, even minor injuries in the Empire are only treated by priests. So, for those who can't access a priest, this could be incredibly helpful. Vivian said sympathetically, I agree with you. Many people would benefit from the things you create. Then, she suddenly suggested, why not talk to my brother? Julia was taken aback, the Crown Prince. Vivian quickly replied, yes. Not only are we close, but he also knows a lot about business. Wait a moment. I'll arrange a meeting for you soon. A few days later, Julia was walking nervously down the hallway. She pondered, will the Crown Prince really be interested in my business plan? Of course, collaborating with the royal family has many advantages. Firstly, it would solve the capital issue, and I wouldn't need to worry about publicizing my name. I've thought it through now. She firmly grasped the doorknob and turned it. As she entered, a voice called out, changing her anxiety into pressure, Julia. Duke Primrose said warmly, so your highness came all this way just to see my daughter? And she came here just to thank you. Enoch calmly replied, yes, it seems her highness thinks very highly of Miss Julia. Duke Primrose, unable to contain his delight, asked, really? Even I, a duke, haven't been able to see her highness Vivian. In years. What happened? Julia straightened, her face expressionless, but inwardly she scoffed. Asterisk disgusting. His eyes lit up at the mere hint of benefit. Asterisk hearing her father's question, Julia feigned a slight embarrassment. I apologize, but I can't say. Duke Primrose, instead of scolding her, maintained his cheerful demeanor. He said sympathetically, it must be something important if you're keeping a secret. Of course, it must be handled discreetly. Julia suppressed a smile. She added, but we almost missed your visit today. She thought to herself, well, I should set the trap while I'm at it. She added with a touch of melancholy. At one point, she seemed displeased. Duke Primrose, not understanding what had transpired, asked Her Highness was displeased? What do you mean? The butler suddenly spoke up. I'll explain, sir. Duke Primrose asked sternly, what happened? Julia thought with inner satisfaction. The butler, who is on my side, revealed all of Lyrica and Jaquizin's wrongdoings. After hearing the whole story, Duke Primrose slammed his hand on the table in anger. He gritted his teeth and roared, summon Jaquizin and Lyrica here immediately. Those two fools, summoned to their father's office. Duke Primrose was furious. He thundered, did you not think to treat your own family with respect, for the sake of the royal family's honor? Julia thought calmly, a severe scolding. Jaquizin quickly offered an excuse. I was just afraid, Julia, and apologized to Julia. She had to endure this because of you. Jaquizin, not daring to disobey his father, said quietly to her, I'm sorry, sister. I was wrong. Julia scoffed inwardly. With that grimacing face, he's apologizing to me. That's a face only I should be allowed to see. A smile unconsciously graced her lips. Asterisk, this is the first time he's bowed his head and apologized to me. It must be incredibly unpleasant for him. Asterisk, let's put other thoughts aside for now. As soon as Enoch saw her, he greeted her, welcome, Miss Julia. Shall we discuss your business plan? After a serious discussion, Enoch asked, so, what do you think of my proposal? Julia hesitated slightly. She replied, before I answer, there's something I want to say. If your interest in my business is solely to repay me for helping Her Highness Vivian, then I don't need you to repay me in this way. Enoch said in a low voice, let me be clear. Aside from helping Vivian, I am genuinely interested in your cosmetics business. Even if these products are just for beautification, they're still effective in healing wounds and scars. As you mentioned, considering the current situation of the Empire, I see this as a business with great potential. And when you said that different people need different kinds of cosmetics, I found that very intriguing. He smiled and continued, I'd like to hear more details. Julia, seeing his curiosity, felt comfortable and replied, "That's a very good question." Enoch, looking attentive, suggested, "I believe product development and company management should be handled by different people." Juria nodded in agreement. "I agree. Those are two different fields." Also, she added, the ingredients of the product should be clearly listed on the packaging, and perhaps it would be good if we created samples and distributed them for free for a while. Enoch asked, "Samples?" Juria cheerfully explained, "Yes, to give out to people for free so they can see if it suits them before buying it." Enoch pondered, imagining himself handing out flyers with a smile, cheerfully calling out, "Free, free," and giving the notices to interested people. Then, he declared, "That's a wonderful idea. If we distribute them in the commercial district, it will also be a way to advertise to people who aren't usually interested in beauty products." He added excitedly, "Sound good? So about your business." Juria suddenly interrupted. "First of all, you said you wanted to collaborate with me not because of the princess, but because you believe my business has potential." Enoch nodded. "Yes, that's right. But is there a problem?" Juria looked at him seriously. "In that case, could you elaborate on what benefits I would gain from collaborating with you, as opposed to someone else, as a business partner?" Enoch looked slightly puzzled. "The benefits you gain? You ask." Juria calmly replied, "As someone seeking investment, I've explained my technology and strategy. However, I'm not obligated to accept investment just from you. If there are other offers for collaboration, I need to consider why I should choose you over them." At this point, Juria was thinking to herself, "After all, this is my technology, so I can consider my options." Enoch looked at her with surprise. "Oh." She continued thinking, "I'm not worried about revealing too much about my strategy or anything like that. Asterisk to make a deal with the royal family, where I will soon become a member, and a powerful family. Of course, having the backing of the royal family would be ideal. But when entering into a contract like this, confidence is key. Asterisk." Enoch, seeing her haughty demeanor, laughed out loud. "Ha ha. I believe your point is very reasonable. So first, let me begin by explaining the scale of the Merchant Guild, which is directly managed by the royal family. After a long period of discussion, conversation, and negotiation, they successfully signed a contract that satisfied both parties. This was an investment made directly under the name of His Highness, the Crown Prince. Juria cheerfully shook Enoch's hand and said, "I look forward to working with you. Thank you for your investment." Enoch replied with satisfaction, "The honor is mine. I also look forward to working with you as the representative." Juria suddenly added, "About being the representative, I like to keep my involvement a secret for now." Enoch looked puzzled. "Why?" Juria quickly responded, "Because if people knew I was the one behind it, it wouldn't be beneficial for me." Enoch, still questioning, hypothesized, "If this business is successful, wouldn't your reputation also increase significantly?" Juria, slightly displeased, replied, "That may be true, but the risk is too great. This isn't a business I'm running alone, so it would be better to minimize the risks." Enoch gradually began to understand her. A moment later, he declared resolutely, "I will keep that secret from now on. However, I trust you. You probably don't know this, but..." He flashed a radiant smile. "Gaining Vivian's and my trust isn't easy." Juria, slightly moved, turned away shyly. "Thank you for your kind consideration, Your Highness." Enoch laughed heartily. "Haha. All you say is thank you over and over again." Juria's face was now quite flushed. She inwardly grumbled, "What else can I say? Oh, okay, Your Highness. The contract is done. It's time to go back." Suddenly, Enoch's hand lightly brushed her hair. This made Juria more embarrassed than ever. She thought shyly, "Oh, since when have we been this close?" Enoch leaned closer and said, "Oh, there's some dust on your hair." The proximity made Juria feel breathless. She looked at him questioningly, thinking, "Wow, what?" Next, she avoided his gaze and said shyly, "If you mean the dust, I can do it myself, Your Highness." Her heart was in turmoil. "I asked the prince always this considerate? But what's so funny that you've been laughing this whole time?" Thinking this, she reminded him, "Well, you'd better be careful with other girls. They might misunderstand." "I know. Enoch reassured her cheerfully, I'll be careful. Juria's mood was extremely confused. She thought, I keep wondering why he's been laughing the whole time. Should a future king laugh so much? Enoch cheerfully invited her. Would you like another cup of tea? She was still inwardly suspicious of him, even though being cheerful was a good thing. Even if something sad happens, he can quickly get over it. Thinking this, she softly replied, Yes, all right. She thought, not like me. And this is the story of Enoch, something that no one, not even Juria, knew. A carriage accident occurred during a heavy downpour. Whether by accident or design, everyone in the carriage died except for one person, young Enoch. His voice trembled as he called out, Mother, brother. His head covered in blood. His face horrified, he cried out, No. Enoch remembered, when I was young, my parents often argued. Every time, my mother would return to her parents' home, where she could find comfort. But as we were passing through the forest, the carriage suddenly overturned. Everyone, except for Vivian and me, died on the spot. But before I could even grieve, my father accused me. It's all your fault. If you hadn't insisted on going with your mother and brother. He was bewildered, not understanding why he was being blamed. But his father glared at him and roared. Everything, the collapse of the Pius family, is because of you. Not long after, the truth came to light that my father had framed my mother, planning to give his position beside him to his mistress. When my grandfather discovered the truth, he couldn't control his rage. From now on, you are no longer my son. The throne will be passed down to my grandson, Enoch Pius. The one who murdered his wife will be banished from the capital until his death. Enoch's father was forced to leave, struggling and shouting, How can you do this to me? I'm your son, father. The emperor placed his hand on Enoch's shoulder, his voice deep and warm. Enoch, you have been very intelligent since you were a child. I believe you will do well as crown prince. At that moment, he implicitly understood that it wasn't a compliment, but a terrifying expectation that I mustn't be like my father. A few years later, his exiled father returned to the capital as a corpse. At his father's funeral, everyone whispered behind his back. They said that he had suddenly fallen ill, but he had been healthy before. Could the rumors be true? That the emperor had framed his own son to drive him away. Those words, neither loud nor soft, were enough to reach the ears of a child like him, enough to make him feel terrified. A man who had killed his wife and child. For a long time, I hated him, believing it to be true. But then, what if the rumors are true? Thump, 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 thump. Noticing his strange expression, the attendant beside him anxiously asked, Your Highness, are you all right? He coldly walked away. I need some fresh air. The attendant was bewildered. But the funeral will begin soon, Your Highness. Ignoring the attendant's calls from behind, he hurriedly left that suffocating place. His heart silently said, I'm so scared. How long can I maintain being the perfect grandson and crown prince that he expects? If I become an obstacle to him, will he eliminate me too? In his panic, young Enoch didn't know when he had bumped into Juria. She softly exclaimed, Oh, Your Highness. Young Enoch quickly assessed, red eyes and silver hair. Then he called her name, Juria Primrose. Young Juria sighed in relief, saying, You startled me. I thought a monster had appeared. Enoch suddenly turned somber. A monster? Juria hastily explained, I didn't mean to say you're a monster, Your Highness. Enoch said unhappily, But isn't that possible? She asked back, bewildered, Huh? He immediately replied, Miss Primrose, you probably don't understand because you're still young, but if my father was a monster, as his son, wouldn't I be a monster too? Juria's eyes widened as she looked at him, and she softly wondered, Your Highness, are you saying that because of the late prince? If Your Highness is a monster, wouldn't Princess Vivian be one too? Hearing her words, his heart jolted, and he asked what? Juria replied melancholically, After all, he was both your fathers. Do you also think Princess Vivian is a monster? Enoch didn't understand, and he wondered, why would Vivian be a monster? Waiting for just that, Juria clarified the matter for him. Well, then so are you. Why do you think you're different? At that moment, young Enoch was enlightened. If being the child of a monster made Enoch a monster too, then is it the same with Vivian? No, I've never thought of her that way. Vivian is my precious family, someone I need to protect. How could I think of her as a monster? Juria continued to explain. If you can't say that about your sister, why say it about yourself? You can't think of yourself the way you do about Princess Vivian. Enoch's face reflected regret and remorse. He thought to himself, no one has ever said anything like that to me before. Words of pity. Losing 2 family members at such a young age. It's pitiful. And those terrible rumors, too. He continued his inner monologue. People pity me. For someone my age, you're sure to become a great leader. That's right. You're the pride of the empire. Or they praise me, but no one understands my feelings. Juria's bewildered voice echoed. I don't know much because I'm still so young. Enoch reflected, touched, but then this girl, whom I've met for the first time, said what I longed to hear. Lost in thought, he suddenly spoke. You're right, Miss Primrose. His previously angry face now broke into a bright smile. He said sincerely, thank you. I'll remember that. Next, Enoch regained his composure and stepped beside the emperor, speaking in a low voice, Your Majesty. The emperor sternly rebuked him. Enoch, leaving like that without permission. What were you thinking? Enoch quickly apologized. It was my fault. I suddenly felt dizzy. Next time, I'll be more careful. Suddenly, he added, Grandfather, I will become a good emperor. One even better than you. Seeing Enoch's somewhat more mature demeanor, the emperor burst into laughter. Ha ha, ha ha. What a bold child. That's my grandson. Enoch resolved in his heart, I will not be afraid. I will be different from both my father and grandfather. Every time I faced difficulties in my studies as crown prince, I thought of Juria. Her comfort allowed me to keep going. Although we didn't see each other after that, the admiration I had for her remained. If we could meet again, I would want to stand beside her and tell her that she was my first love. Inside the mansion, Juria's gentle voice echoed. Mother, you should rest for a while. Lycidon, sitting on the bed, gave a gentle smile. I'm fine. They said it's just a mild fever. She worried for her, but Juria recounted. Mother fell ill from attending too many social events, but she recovered quickly after hearing the good news from me. Duchess Lycidon chuckled and reassured her, don't worry too much. The doctor also said it's probably because I've been thinking too much, so if I rest a bit, I'll get better soon. More importantly, I'm truly happy and proud that you've partnered with the Crown Prince in business. Just thinking about it makes me feel energized. I used to think that my title as Duchess and my husband were everything. I hope you'll spread your wings and step into a wider world. Juria was moved by her warm words. Mother, Lycidon added, I'll keep your business a secret, don't worry. Juria replied with a cheerful expression, thank you for your support. I'll do my best. The two were talking when someone suddenly pushed. The door opened. Lyrica, dressed in a pretty dress, entered. Mother, are you all right? Juria was displeased to see her appear. Lyrica slowly approached them. I heard you weren't feeling well, so I came to visit. I hope you'll recover soon. Juria thought in a panic. Lyrica, wait a minute, could it be? She blurted out, Lyrica. Lyrica looked at her innocently. Juria picked up the bouquet and said in a chilling voice, Do you know what kind of flower this is that you dare bring it here? She recalled her past life. White leffia flowers, used for the dead. The moment I saw the flower, a terrible memory resurfaced. In my past life, Lyrica gave my mother a bouquet of white leffia when she was ill. At that time, Juria angrily slapped Lyrica across the face. Are you implying that mother's about to die? Lyrica cried out in false indignation. I apologize. I didn't know. I'll throw it away immediately. Seeing this, Zikazin scolded Juria. Juria, what did you just do to Lyrica? Juria recalled, at that time, I lost control and slapped Lyrica, my brother's beloved little sister. Juria tried to explain to her brother, Brother, do you know what she just did? She just gave mother a leffia flower. Zikazin ignored her words and focused on Lyrica. That's absurd. Where could she have gotten it? They're not grown in the Duke's garden. Accusing her without reason and even slapping her. You've truly lost your mind. Juria thought miserably to herself. I wanted to protest, but it was too late. Because Lyrica had thrown the bouquet into the fire and destroyed it. She watched as Lyrica acted friendly in front of everyone. Oh, it was partly my fault too. It's all right. It's understandable. The young lady opposite her sympathized. Even so, to slap the young miss like that and leave a mark. Juria remembered every detail clearly. And when Lyrica proudly showed off her reddened cheeks at social gatherings, my reputation only worsened. But this time, I won't fall for her tricks so easily. Shaking off those thoughts, Juria spoke up irritably. White leffia flowers, do you know what they mean? She thought to herself, what should I do to deal with someone like her? Lyrica paled and looked at her fearfully. White leffia? What is that? Juria scoffed. Right, of course. If you knew the meaning, you wouldn't have brought them here. Who gave them to you? Could it have been one of your servants? The maids, frightened, rushed to defend themselves. No, it wasn't us. The young miss brought the bouquet herself. Lyrica, as if betrayed by her own servants, trembled with anger but tried to remain calm. About that. Juria affirmed to herself. She's already lost everyone's affection after the scandal with the pot and the dress. Then Lyrica conceded, her hand trembling as she reached for the bouquet. All right, I apologize, Sister Juria. I'll throw them away immediately. Juria snapped. Throw them away? This can't just be brushed aside. Lyrica, how could you not know something so basic? This concerns the family's reputation. I'll report this to father or brother. Before she could finish, Zikazin stormed in. What's all this commotion, Juria? She didn't back down, throwing the bouquet at him. You're just in time, brother. Look at the gift she brought for mother. Zikazin saw the white leffia flowers and paled. This is white leffia. Lyrica clasped her hands together, feigning a pout. Brother, I really didn't know the meaning of these flowers. I just thought mother would like them. He went to her and embraced her, comforting her. Yes, there's no way you would have meant anything by it. It's all right, Lyrica, calm down. Juria said in a low voice, well, it seems we'll have to reprimand Lyrica's tutor. Both of them were startled by her words. Zikazin quickly asked, reprimand her tutor? What do you mean? Juria calmly explained her reasoning. A smart and diligent child like Lyrica, not knowing the meaning of white leffia flowers, clearly shows the tutor's negligence in her education. Zikazin bowed his head in acknowledgement. You're right, Lyrica wasn't taught about it. Lyrica mumbled incoherently. But I believe the teacher is a good person. Juria walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. Lyrica, this decision is for your own safety. If this spreads, what will become of you? Won't they start saying unpleasant things about your birth and other cruel words? But don't worry, trust me, I'll make sure no one finds out. A few hours later, Juria invited Madame Tuller for a meal and a chat. After hearing the whole story, Madame Tuller was aghast. Impossible. Are you saying such things really happened? Juria confirmed. Yes, that's precisely why I wanted to ask. Have you truly never taught her the meaning of the flower? Madame Tuller spoke to her seriously. Miss Juria, I am known as the teacher who has trained the most outstanding young ladies in high society. There's no way I wouldn't teach her such basic things. Juria politely exclaimed, I understand what you're saying, but the Duke is also furious and insists on changing Lyrica's tutor, so, instead, I hope you'll accept this. Juria handed her a letter, which made her wonder, what is this? Juria smiled cheerfully. It's a letter of recommendation I wrote, just in case. With it, you'll be able to find a position elsewhere soon. Madame Tuller's hands trembled as she held the letter. Oh, my goodness, Miss Juria, you are so kind. Juria replied politely. It's nothing. I know you must have felt terrible. I'm glad your mind is at ease. Madame Tuller brought a handkerchief to her eyes to wipe away her tears. Actually, I've misunderstood you all this time. I believed all the bad rumors about you, Miss Juria. Juria spoke with a forgiving tone. Don't worry about it, madam. Rumors are truly frightening, aren't they? Once they spread, they become uncontrollable. Madame Tuller's voice suddenly dropped. You're right. Mississippi rumors are truly frightening. Not long after, Julia stood up to see her off. Take care, Madame Tuller. After she left, Julia raised her head and thought to herself, I wonder how someone close like Madame Tuller will spread this story? I'm very curious to know. Everyone says she's as beautiful as a spring flower, the girl treasured like a jewel by Duke Primrose and his heir. That's me, Lyrica Primrose. Lyrica's hand, holding a hairbrush, suddenly trembled. She flew into a rage, throwing the brush in her hand and shouting, Damn it! This is unforgivable. Lyrica's eyes were filled with hatred. She gritted her teeth and said, Julia, everything has been messed up lately because of her. Lyrica widened her eyes, wondering, why did things turn out like this? At this rate, everything I've built will crumble. I've worked so hard to get this far. I thought everything would be smooth sailing once I stepped into the mansion. On that day, Duke Primrose looked at the paper in his hand and said, TSK, another invitation for an exchange meant only for Julia? Lyrica thought resentfully. The label of illegitimate child is always attached to me. Julia smiled gently and said, Lyrica must be feeling very sad, but it's only right for the legitimate daughter to participate in such events. As soon as she finished speaking, Duke Primrose immediately scolded, Julia, how could you say such a thing instead of comforting your sister? Julia flinched and hurriedly explained, I apologize, father. I just thought. Lyrica thought to herself, that's when I came up with the perfect plan to make everyone accept me. At the party, she dropped a glass, shattering it into pieces. Everyone gathered around. Embarrassed, Julia loudly scolded, Lyrica, what have you done? Causing trouble again. Lyrica pretended to be frightened and bent down, picking up the shards as she said, I'm sorry, sister. Inwardly, she thought, it's fortunate that foolish Julia always reacts to even the smallest provocation. While she was outside, a surprised gasp rang out. Oh, Miss Lyrica! A brown-haired girl named Dravel said with displeasure, You must have been very upset earlier. How could your sister say such harsh things? Another girl smiled and extended an invitation. Would you like to join us for tea? Lyrica timidly asked, Could I? Thank you. She thought to herself, Witnessing this, everyone started to sympathize with and accept me. A maid beside Lyrica asked, Why is Miss Julia always so harsh with Miss Lyrica? Another dark-haired maid said, Miss Lyrica, you shouldn't be so tolerant. You're too kind. Lyrica thought smugly. I quickly gained the favor of the servants. Even Duke Primrose, upon hearing about it, was furious. Julia humiliated Lyrica again? That child. Lyrica, seeing this, was extremely pleased. She thought to herself, and even gained the Duke's sympathy. Madame Tuller was very enthusiastic about helping Lyrica spread unfavorable rumors about her sister. Lyrica is so pitiful, she really needs a suitable tutor. Lyrica thought, this is Miss Lyrica, kind and intelligent. My new tutor, Madame Tuller, has helped me a lot in spreading stories about my sister. I even became the pitiful and kind underdog of the Primrose family, while Julia was seen as the wicked girl who tormented me. But then one day, everything started to go wrong. On the day of my 19th birthday party, I hadn't told anyone about the pale pink dress, the lead pot I secretly gifted to a maid, and the plan involving the white leffia flowers. What should have been perfect, considering Julia's usual temperament, all backfired as if she saw through my plan, turning it against me and trapping me. She even dared to mock me, and in the end, even the servants who had once sided with me turned away. And father and brother started to find me bothersome. Even Madame Tuller, who helped me build social connections, distanced herself. What angered me the most was seeing Julia invited to the royal palace, something I couldn't achieve no matter how hard I tried. Yet, she obtained it so easily. Lyrica's eyes widened with malice. She pursed her lips, thinking hatefully, Damn it, I can't forgive her. I wish Julia would just disappear. But looking at herself in the mirror, Lyrica suddenly froze. She closed her eyes and reminded herself, Calm down, I need to stay calm. Julia will definitely do something at the social gathering today. Whatever happens, I won't let it slide this time. I just need to do what I did before. She told herself, Julia, everything you have will be mine. One by one, I'll steal them all from you. But Lyrica's intentions didn't last long. Inside the castle, countless whispers echoed endlessly. Hey, have you heard about this? Someone curiously replied. What is it? The other person immediately recounted everything they knew. Miss Lyrica bought a lead pot at the market without a second thought. Not only that, but she even gave white leffia flowers as a gift. Everyone was astonished by this news. Someone exclaimed, Oh my, how could someone taught by Madame Tuller not know such basic etiquette? A young lady with purple hair sighed in disappointment and asked her friends, Have you heard the rumors? Some say that Madame Tuller is all talk and no skill. The brown-haired young lady gasped, Really? It's a disgrace to those who learn from her. Dravel is also furious. She agreed with the other young ladies. That's right. Do you know how much I paid to learn from her? She gritted her teeth and continued angrily. Making a mistake is one thing, but blaming your own tutor is absurd. We accepted her despite her being an illegitimate child, and this is how she repays our kindness. Dravel continued. It must be because of her background, stupid and ungrateful, only knowing how to repay kindness with malice. Lyrica's face darkened as she stood behind Dravel, gritting her teeth and shouting, What business is it of yours what I do? Mind your own business. The three young ladies were startled to see Lyrica appear and exclaimed, Miss Lyrica! Lyrica coldly ordered them. Say that again, looking me straight in the eye. Dravel, frightened, stammered, Oh. Lyrica crossed her arms and coldly warned, Miss Dravel, you know your family still owes a large debt to the Duke's house, don't you? Your family is also much smaller than ours, so you'd better watch your mouth. Hearing this, Dravel retorted discontentedly, Miss Lyrica, what are you saying now? Suddenly, another voice interrupted their conversation. Excuse me, ladies. Julia appeared, standing in front of Lyrica. Dravel exclaimed in surprise, And Miss Julia? Julia appeared extremely apologetic and explained on behalf of her sister, I'm so sorry. Lyrica has been under a lot of pressure recently. She spoke sincerely. I apologize on her behalf, but please don't treat my sister so poorly. Dravel replied, stunned, Yes, we apologize as well. Lyrica, standing behind Julia, gritted her teeth in anger. After witnessing this scene, a lot of gossip began to spread. What just happened? That's the first time I've seen Miss Lyrica act like that. The whispers gradually escalated. Seeing this, Lyrica quickly turned and left, thinking to herself, Julia, really? Even in front of the other ladies, you try to humiliate me? I won't let this go. At this moment, a young lady sighed and asked worriedly, Oh dear, are you all right, Miss Dravel? Dravel replied, I'm fine, but Miss Julia, she's not what I thought she was. The three of them continued to gossip about Julia, right? I admit, I've changed my opinion of her. Maybe there are some aspects of her bad reputation that we don't know. I guess so. Seeing Miss Lyrica's behavior today, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to judge. Of others, outside, a carriage was preparing to depart. Lyrica was sitting inside when a surprised voice called out, leaving already, Julia smiled and said, such a sudden departure? It's not like you. Lyrica asked suspiciously, not like me. Julia affirmed, yes, usually, but before she could finish, Lyrica cut her off. It's you who's changed, not me, I don't understand why you've changed, but I won't let you manipulate me anymore. Julia smirked coldly. So you're finally showing your true colors, Lyrica? She thought, but outwardly she feigned surprise. Really? I'm quite curious to see what you'll do next. Just then, a hand reached out. Miss Julia. A knight suddenly appeared, standing protectively in front of Julia. The carriage is about to depart. Please excuse us. Lyrica said, I'll be going now, sister. Enjoy the rest of the party. As soon as she finished speaking, the knight who had prevented Julia from approaching the carriage immediately stepped forward and asked, / Miss Lyrica, are you all right? / Lyrica smiled and replied, / yes, I'm fine. Let's go back, / Julia watched the departing carriage and thought to herself, *, I thought Lyrica had no allies left. But that knight's gaze and attitude were clearly hostile towards me. It seems the rumors haven't reached the knights yet. *. Julia mused. * According to the original story, Lyrica will soon awaken as the saintess. There's no telling what she'll do then. *. She pursed her lips, determined. I have to separate those knights from Lyrica. In her room, Julia held a pen, focused on writing something. After the party, where Lyrica's fake personality was exposed in front of the other young ladies, I kept thinking about the hostility shown by her escort knight. The Duke's knights are quartered quite far from the main building, so they're likely to hear about events surrounding Lyrica later. By the time the rumors reach them, they'll be distorted. Julia hid behind a wall to eavesdrop on the conversation of the knights nearby. / what? But Miss Lyrica wouldn't do something like that, would she? She must have been falsely accused. It must be Miss Julia again. She's always at odds with her. / As soon as he finished speaking, the others chimed in, / that's right, we must protect Miss Lyrica. / agreed. Let's do our best for the young miss. / Julia thought wryly. And so I become the villain in their eyes. Lyrica alone doesn't create power. It comes from the people who support her. She resolved, I need to completely cut off that source of power. As Julia walked down the hallway, Lyrica's angry voice made her stop in surprise. / I said I'm not hungry right now. / a maid stammered fearfully. / but Miss Lyrica, you haven't eaten anything since last night. / Julia looked at the maid standing in front of Lyrica's room and thought, that maid, Zyra, is incredibly worried. Zyra, try to persuade Lyrica. I'm just worried about you. Lyrica shouted angrily, get out. I want to be alone. So leave me alone. Zyra, wasn't it just recently that you were dumped by the person you were dating? That's because you're so stupid. At this moment, Zyra was stunned by Lyrica's cold words. She exclaimed, Miss Lyrica? Zyra was one of the young maids who adored Lyrica, treating her harshly. Was it because Lyrica looked down on her servant status, or was she simply losing control? Julia approached, worriedly asking Zyra, Zyra, are you all right? Zyra, with tears welling up, shakily called out, sobbed Miss Julia. Julia reached out to support her and comforted her. Lyrica must still be very upset, but how could she say such cruel things? Zyra, wiping her tears, said sadly, I can't believe Miss Lyrica would treat me like this. Julia smiled, kindly explaining on behalf of her sister. She must be hurting. Don't mind her. She happily thought, I wasn't expecting this, but this is a good thing. Zyra is very talkative and has many friends. She'll be a valuable ally. Zyra suddenly recounted Lyrica's recent behavior. Actually, lately, Miss Lyrica has been too much. The other day, another maid. Julia smiled, cutting her off. Now, speaking ill of someone can easily turn into rumors. Instead, could you help me with a small task? I'm about to go out. Zyra didn't hesitate and immediately agreed. Of course, Mississippi hearing this, Julia gently said, Thank you, Zyra. At the same time, she thought, I'll take away the few people left by your side. Lyrica, outside. Lycidon anxiously asked her, Julia, are you sure this outfit is suitable for meeting the Crown Prince? Julia confidently affirmed, it's necessary. Mother, I can't dress too conspicuously. Despite her assurance, Lycidon still felt incredibly worried. Even so, Julia seriously explained, I need to be anonymous. Today, I'm going with Enoch, the Crown Prince, to scout potential locations for the shop. We both agreed we wanted to investigate the locations ourselves. The problem is we're both easily recognizable, so we decided to keep a low profile by concealing our faces as much as possible. At this moment, Julia, wearing a cloak, sat across from Lycidon. She reassured her mother, the Crown Prince will be dressed the same way, so don't worry. Seeing her daughter say this, Lysadin felt more at ease. I understand. That's fine then. Julia smiled gently. Yes, I'll be going now. Now, standing outside on the street, Julia looked at the bustling crowd in front of her and thought in surprise. I was worried this outfit would attract more attention, but there are so many people around. Maybe it's okay? She suddenly realized a problem. How am I supposed to find the crown prince in this crowd? Enoch suddenly appeared, apologetically saying to Julia, I'm late, aren't I? I'm sorry. Julia exclaimed in surprise. Oh, there you are. At Enoch's sudden appearance, she thought incredulously, without a sound, too. Enoch laughed heartily, making a suggestion. Shall we go now? Julia stammered in agreement. Why, yes. Enoch, walking down the street, felt incredibly lucky. It's a good thing no one recognizes us. Julia agreed with him. Yes, that would be a problem. She pursed her lips, thinking to herself, at least we haven't been spotted, but everyone is staring, especially at the crown prince. She observed Enoch walking beside her and thought helplessly, what's the point of dressing inconspicuously when he's this radiant? A girl behind him gasped, awestruck by Enoch's beauty. She exclaimed, he's so handsome and tall. Is he a royal knight or an actor? Julia grimaced, thinking wearily, maybe coming out like this wasn't such a good idea. What if the reporters photograph us and write an exclusive expose? It could ruin the business before it even starts. Suddenly, Enoch called out to her, Miss Julia. He approached her with concern and asked, why do you look so tense? Julia stammered. And me? Enoch smiled teasingly. Don't tell me you're nervous because of my handsome looks. Julia exclaimed in disbelief. What? Enoch quickly explained, I'm just kidding. Julia gave him a cool glance and said, oh. Suddenly feeling immensely curious, she asked Enoch, but do I look that tense? Enoch suggested, a little, but I'm sure you'll feel more comfortable once we start looking at the shops. Or should I joke around more to help you relax? Without a second thought, Julia immediately refused the offer, and oh no, it's fine. She smiled to herself, thinking, he's a bit unusual, but I don't feel uncomfortable around him. Actually, he's quite approachable, isn't he? After looking at a few shops, Julia felt a bit disappointed. None of them seemed suitable. The first shop had a tree blocking the entrance, and the interior layout of the next one was just terrible. He encouraged Julia and asked curiously, we haven't seen them all yet, so let's keep trying. By the way, have you thought a name for the shop? Julia suggested a name and asked for Enoch's opinion. I think I have one. Yinit, what do you think? She lowered her head, explaining the meaning of the name. Yinit, it means dawn in the ancient language, right? Julia asserted confidently. You might think it's too grand for a cosmetics business, but I believe that creating good products at reasonable prices can change people's lives as if they're waiting for a new dawn. Even those with scars on their hearts because of their skin condition, like the princess. After hearing this, Enoch didn't immediately reply, but simply smiled gently. Julia continued, although profit is also important, I want the business to prioritize that. Enoch asked, surprised, from what you're saying, it seems like a very fitting name. Julia explained, actually, I've been thinking about what to develop next. Enoch asked curiously, is there any kind of product you've always felt was necessary? Julia thought for a moment before replying, a necessary product? Let me see, because Vivian's problem has been solved, I'm not sure I need anything else. Enoch spoke to Julia as he reached up to wipe the sweat from his face. That I see. After seeing his action, Julia asked with concern, by the way, aren't you hot, Your Highness? Enoch replied, yes, wearing this cloak is a bit hot. Enoch shared his upcoming plans with Julia. The IT seems summer is coming soon. I'll have to participate in mountain training with the Royal Knights soon, which I'm worried about. Julia thought to herself, what I'm worried about is prolonged exposure to sunlight, which often causes skin problems. Asterisk, I hope it's not as hot as last year, Your Highness. About that new product idea. Asterisk, having finished her thought, she cheerfully asked for Enoch's opinion. What do you think about developing a cosmetic product like sunscreen? She continued, explaining how it would protect skin from sun damage. Julia excitedly thought this could be the key to achieving two goals at once. After much searching, we finally found a truly suitable place. It's not only located in the heart of a bustling area, but the first floor can be used as a shop and the second floor as an office. The interior is perfectly suited for a cosmetic store, minimizing renovation costs. More than that, Julia turned her gaze towards the man with hair as bright as the country's future and expressed her gratitude. "Thank you for your hard work, Your Highness." Enoch chuckled at her words, then affectionately replied, "Miss Julia has worked even harder than I. But in any case, it's a relief that we found such a good location in just one day." Julia nodded, indeed. Then she looked towards the building in front of them, a project she had spearheaded, and couldn't help but feel proud that I'm eager to see what this place will become in the future. As if in celebration, the image of the building bathed in the sunset was truly beautiful. Night gradually descended upon the small town. The two of them, each lost in their own thoughts, strolled together to enjoy the beautiful night. Julia smiled and said, "Your Highness has received royal training in business, haven't you?" Enoch smiled and nodded. "Yes. It's part of the Crown Prince's training. Because it's a field I'm passionate about, I focus more on those lessons." Hearing this, she added, "That's impressive." But he shook his head at her compliment and quickly replied, "The impressive one is Miss Julia. You have a very special intuition. You've never run a business before, have you?" His unusual demeanor made her speechless. She thought, this sudden compliment, what's it about? If it were criticism, I could respond. This is too difficult to handle. After a moment, she hurriedly said, I'm grateful you see me in such a positive light." Seeing her reaction, he pressed his advantage, by the way, it's quite late, Miss Julia. May I escort you back to the Duchess's residence?" Julia immediately shook her head in refusal. "I can go alone. The streetlights are bright enough, anyway." He immediately countered, "But I'm a little worried about you walking alone without a knight." Cornered by his words, she had no choice but to interject to reaffirm her stance. "I may not have a knight, but I have a magically protected item. So it's all right." Enoch asked, "Isn't that item limited in its number of uses?" She nodded, "That's right." Seeing the determination in her eyes, he didn't press the matter further and replied, "If that's the case, please save it for emergencies. If I bring a knight from the Duke's residence, Jakizan and Lyrica will find out, and if it reaches Father's ears, first, he'll be pleased because it involves the royal family. But once he knows I'm directly running a business, he'll object, *. After careful consideration, she put the bracelet away and reasoned with herself. That's why from now on, I'll only carry one item. But according to His Highness, I should save it. So, with no other options, she looked up at Enoch and made her proposal. "Well then, may I ask for your escort this time?" Having taken the bait, he nodded without hesitation. "Of course, Miss Julia. It would be my honor." So the starlight guided their love. When they arrived back at the residence, Julia was overjoyed to see Lycedon waiting for her. "Mother, I'm home." Hearing her daughter's voice, Lycedon was equally delighted. "Julia!" she exclaimed, rushing to her side, "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." But Lycedon shook her head with a smile. "I was comfortably waiting at a friend's house, so I'm fine." Then, her expression turned to concern. "It's late. You didn't come alone, did you?" Julia replied cheerfully, "His Highness, the Crown Prince, accompanied me." Looking at the man who could protect her daughter's future, Lycedon couldn't help but ask anxiously, "He's a good person, right?" Julia simply nodded in affirmation. "Yes, he's very good." As they both climbed into the carriage, Lycedon got straight to the point. "How did your business discussion go, dear? Did you find a good shop?" Julia nodded. "Yes, luckily we found a wonderful place in just one day." As a mother, Lycedon was overjoyed and praised her. "That's wonderful. You both did a great job." To further delight her mother, Julia excitedly added about her next plan. "Also, while talking with the Crown Prince, I came up with an idea for a new product. I plan to start researching it as soon as I get home." But upon hearing this, Lycedon shook her head. "Oh, but you've worked hard all day. You should get a good rest tonight." Julia simply smiled and looked out the window, softly replying, "I do it because I enjoy it, so it's all right." Then she thought to herself, for the first time in my life, I genuinely want to do this and tell my mother about it. Looking at the moon that had risen above the tower, she thought, this will be a happy night. Back at the palace, after escorting Julia back to her mother, Enoch quickly returned to his own residence. He had just opened the door when he heard a familiar voice. You're finally home. Enoch asked in surprise, Vivian, were you waiting for me? Have you been waiting long? Vivian, sipping her tea, calmly looked at him and replied, I've been waiting for a while, but I enjoyed some tea while I waited. Then she lifted her cup and asked with a smile, Did you find a shop? How is Miss Julia? How was your day? Enoch sat down, and Vivian poured him some tea before continuing, Miss Julia has a surprisingly cautious side, doesn't she? I was worried she wouldn't express her opinions and would just be led along by you. Hearing this, Enoch paused, a cautious side. He fell into deep thought. Julia's image surfaced in his teacup alongside his thoughts. It's true that she sometimes seems quite reserved. Perhaps it's because she's been ostracized and criticized in the past. But when we talk about business, her eyes completely changed. A confident demeanor and exceptional leadership. Not only were her ideas impressive, but her persuasiveness and seriousness were also remarkable. Her intuition and abilities are so outstanding that it's hard to believe this is her first time running a business. Thinking about this, Enoch chuckled reassuringly at his sister. You don't need to worry about that. Surprised, Vivian asked why. Enoch replied, She's amazing. Hearing these words, Vivian asked, bewildered, Who are you talking about? Enoch's mind wasn't on his sister's question. He was still thinking about his promise to Julia. So, I'll see you at the office next time? Zuria nodded. Yes, at the office in our shop. Her face was filled with the joy of having her own business. In a field she was passionate about, she showed no hesitation or embarrassment. Cupid's arrow had begun to pierce his heart, making him sigh inwardly. I've never met someone so radiant and accomplished before. Noticing her brother's inattention, Vivian slammed her hand on the table, demanding an explanation. And oh, who is this amazing person you're talking about? Tell me everything that happened today. He just grinned mischievously. Nope, that's a trade secret. After exchanging a few words with his sister, Enoch's thoughts drifted back to Julia. What I saw today was probably a true side of Julia Primrose, one that even her family doesn't know. He stood up absently-mindedly, continuing to think as he walked away that I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her different sides in the future. Seeing this, Vivian angrily slammed the table. Tell me. A few peaceful days passed. On the training grounds, shouts and cheers rang out constantly. Good. Deeper. Block the left side. In the midst of their intense training, a man ran up to them with a bright expression. Hey, everyone. We have a visitor. The knights looked up. A visitor. They all turned to the entrance, their eyes wide with anticipation. Is it Miss Lyrica visiting after so long? It would be great if it were her. But high hopes often lead to disappointment. The person who entered the training grounds wasn't the woman of their dreams, but Julia. Their expressions immediately changed, becoming hostile as they murmured among themselves. Who is that? Why is she here? Does she have some ulterior motive? Julia noticed their gazes and sighed. Just as I thought, they're quite wary of me. Without hesitation, she activated her flower petal effect. However, if I show them this, their reaction will change instantly. Joining the illustrious Primrose Ducal Knights was the dream of anyone who aspired to knighthood. What made the Duke's Knights even more renowned was the existence of those born with the blessing of the sword within the ducal family. In Julia's memory, a soldier fell at this point. Ugh! The commanding officer standing next to him shouted praises. Excellent! 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 Young Master Jakizan. That's 5 consecutive victories. As expected of someone blessed by the sword. Truly remarkable. Children love to be praised, and Jakizan was no exception. He replied smugly, This is too easy, especially for me, Jakizan. The blessing manifested quickly and powerfully. The children watching from below looked up at him with admiration. Impressive. I want to be that strong too. The knights his age admired him, and trained even harder. But the knight's idealized image of Jakizan quickly shattered. Hee. While watching the others train, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. Huh, look. After seeing the two of them focused on him, Jakizan burst out laughing. He's been training all day, and that's all he can do? I'm surprised he hasn't given up on skills like that yet. These taunting words were etched in their minds. Oomph. I guess because he's blessed and the Duke's young master, he doesn't need to try hard. Just relying on talent and lazing around all day, and he dares to laugh at us. The knight's dissatisfaction with Jakizan increased. Just then, Lyrica's appearance changed the situation. Brother. He stopped his mocking and immediately stood up with a delighted expression. Oh, it's you? Lyrica, playing the role of a doting younger sister, asked, the weather is so hot. You must have trained hard. Seeing this, the soldiers softened their expressions and remarked, it's Miss Lyrica. She's as lovely as ever. Hearing their murmurs, she smiled back ingratiatingly. You knights must be tired. Take care of yourselves. The only one who said anything kind to them was Lyrica. Her gentle smile and encouraging words melted the knights' anger. For the Duke's knights, this southern expedition training was especially grueling because the weather that year was much hotter than usual. Some couldn't take it anymore and yelled, Ugh, it's so hot. I can't go on. My skin feels like it's burning. Then everyone sought shade to escape the sun, complaining to each other. Damn it. Even if we wanted to go to the infirmary, the city hospital is fully booked with noble appointments. Speaking of which, some couldn't contain their resentment and protested. Are we knights to be treated like this? Our skin is so damaged. And yet Jakizan's skin is still as radiant as ever. He must have run straight to the priests as soon as we return from the expedition. He doesn't even bother with training or swinging a sword anymore. Hearing this, a knight rummaged through the basket Julia had brought. I can't stand it anymore. The others exclaimed, Hey, what are you doing? Hey, are you seriously thinking of using that? You'd better stop. Who knows what's in there? That's from that wicked woman. She must have put something strange in it. But the scorching sun had driven the knight to desperation. He angrily shouted, I don't care. This is the only thing we can rely on now. As soon as he applied the ointment to his skin, he suddenly yelled, What is this? Back at the main residence of the Julia family, Lyrica was irritably walking down the stairs with her arms crossed, her mind racing. After shutting herself in her room for days, she had finally decided to go out. She glanced at Jera curiously, but something about Jera seemed off. She's usually so talkative, but today she's rather quiet. Thinking this, Lyrica said, Ahem, Jera, the weather has gotten much hotter lately. I want to order some new clothes. Would you like to go to Main Street with me? Jera smiled faintly and replied indifferently, If you wish for me to accompany you, I would be happy to. This made Lyrica even more puzzled. Wait a minute, what's with this stiff response? Jera used to love going to Main Street with me. Usually, she'd be excited, showering me with compliments. Could it be because of that day? Her mind wandered back to the harsh words from before. She'd heard Jera had recently been dumped by her fiancé. It's because she's so clueless. It was obvious, Lyrica thought to herself. In retrospect, maybe she had been a bit too harsh. But who did Jera think she was, changing her attitude just because of a few words? Anyway, if Jera repeated this to the other maids, it would be troublesome. She needed something to get a hold on her again. Suddenly, Lyrica's eyes lit up as if she had realized something. Come to think of it, Jera often stared intently at the knights whenever Lyrica brought her to the training grounds, and she had recently broken up with someone. Without another moment's hesitation, she immediately put her plan into action. Jera called out suddenly. Jera responded dazedly, yes? Lyrica turned, putting on a friendly smile, that I need to go see the knights now. Would you like to come with me? This time, I'll introduce you to them. Hearing this, Jera stammered, Introduce me? Lyrica replied, That's right. Quite a few knights are curious about you. Jera asked in surprise, Goodness, really? Then she quickly bowed her head gratefully. Thank you so much, Miss Lyrica. Hearing this, the corners of Lyrica's mouth curled up slightly. She's so easy to manipulate. How simple. So, after a short walk, the two of them arrived at the training grounds. Upon arrival, Lyrica was surprised to see everyone gathered in groups. Huh? What's all the commotion over there? At that moment, one of the soldiers shouted, Lady Julia, is it so hard to tell us who gave it to you? Yes. Julia nodded. It's a secret. He continued, Anyway, it's all thanks to Lady Julia. Noticing the joy in their voices, she laughed in response, but I'm glad to hear it worked. Lyrica could only stand there, completely surprised. Why is Julia here? Confused and unsure of what was happening, Jera suddenly shouted, Lady Julia! Seeing everyone becoming friendly with each other, Lyrica thought in horror, What? Since when were they so close? Before she could even introduce Jera, Julia immediately said, By the way, this is Jera. She's a friend who has helped me a lot. This made Lyrica unhappy, noting, Even the knights are ignoring me. Stewing in her frustration, she was about to confront Julia, but then quickly ran off as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, a knight said, Actually, Miss Jera, I've seen you here a few times before. Jera asked in surprise, Really? At the same time, the corners of Julia's mouth curled up slightly. By now, Lyrica had found a secluded spot to have a mental breakdown. Impossible. Now, even the knights. This is all so unexpected. I can't deny that public opinion has really shifted. What should I do? What can I do to fix this? While she was lost in her self-induced daze, a shout snapped her back to reality. Lyrica! Jiki-san appeared like a godsend, his face etched with worry. Why do you look so pale? Lyrica immediately whispered, Brother Jiki Sr. Inwardly, she began to calculate, That's right, if it's Brother Jiki's son. Seeing his sister not answering, he asked with further concern, Are you overheating? Let me take you back to your room. Ignoring his caring questions, she only thought, He'll definitely take my side. Jiki-san said, I'll help you with anything. Just tell me. Seeing her opportunity, Lyrica immediately played the part, calling out in a fragile voice, Brother, the thing is... Actually, thank you all for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you relaxing and enjoyable moments. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.